We got number 9 BYU coming in. We got number 23 Colorado after that, number 11 Iowa State, and then at UCF to finish the season. Like, I could very well see us losing all 4 of those games, to be honest with you. And it's just tough. Not our year, I guess, and we got to start building, I think, for next season. Like I said, there's one way we can call this a successful season, and that's if we go in to Rice-Eccles Stadium in a couple of weeks and ruin BYU's season. Nothing would make me happier this college football season. And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Couch Potatoes. I'm your host, Jay Cubs, joined as always by Feisty. Unfortunately, I know the Steelers are playing right now, but they go on a bye week next week. And I guess Big Country decided to take the bye week too, maybe a couple of them. So just have to be me and you, but that's okay. Sometimes I like the ones with just me and you better anyways.
No.
Just kidding, of course. All right, but enough jokes. Let's get into business. Let's talk about number 1 again, baby. Oregon staying put, having a really dominant win. Beat Illinois, Big Ten matchup, 38-9. Dylan Gabriel played really well, threw had 3 touchdown passes, 4 overall, and moves into second all time in NCAA history with touchdown passes. So we want to talk about an old man that just isn't
Hey,
playing in his 10th season.
what can
Sounds
I
like that's
say?
what that guy.
What can I say? When you've been there for 10 years, you're bound to
Making how
break
much
some kind
money
of
again?
record. Huh?
Making how much money again?
Still not where to buy his. No, I mean this is just a dominating game. We played really well. Tez Johnson was fought like just shot out of a cannon. Dylan Gabriel had also the rushing touchdown where he just looked like it was funny because Bleach Report's like Dylan Gabriel hurled into the end zone, but it was just really just him jumping into the end zone. It
Oh,
wasn't
really?
really a big deal. Yeah, so it was kind of cool. It was a good game, and then Winnington also had some freaking monster runs. It wasn't Jordan James as usual, so he had 2 rushing touchdowns and he plowed one right through the defense, and so it was cool. It was just a good, easy game. I thought Illinois would have put up a little bit more fight, but they
Mhm.
actually end up not putting up any fight, and so we just get an easy win. It's a good opportunity to keep going with that momentum and have that undefeated season still on hold. So hopefully we continue to do it and we keep getting better. And Dylan Gabriel, let's talk about him for a second, man. Like he's looking like he might be sneaking his way into the Heisman race
A
because
little bit.
he's having great games. He's not turning the ball over. I think he had 1 interception that game. But it's looking like he's just balling out right now. And if Oregon continues to ball out, like Wesley said, it's a team sport. So do you also look at the team and their record and how well they end up doing? I mean,
Right.
I would. I still think that Ashton Genty deserves it. But Dylan Gabriel's kind of creeping up on there. I think he's like in 3rd place right now. So 3rd or 4th. I don't remember which one it was, but looking good for us.
There you go, man. Good for you guys and good for him. Yeah, I think he's playing lights out, doing what he needs to do. I think that sometimes, he doesn't have like the crazy games. He doesn't go
Yeah.
450 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he doesn't need to, when you guys are playing, like you said, complementary team football. And I
Yep.
think he's doing the right things. He did have the 1 pick, like you said, but overall, really not making that many mistakes. So I love it. He seemed to step in and just like right where Bo Nix was, and they run the same kind of offense. They got a lot of quick passes, and it's very efficient. Nobody can really
Yeah.
stop them. So yeah,
And
I gotta love
and
it
I
for
was
your
just gonna
Ducks.
say, it's also interesting to mention that like that first couple games, you remember how pissed I was, and then now it's looking like this is a different team. Like after that Oregon State game, it was almost like the rivalry just kicked the fire in them.
Hmm.
So I mean, overall, great games so far. Next stretch of games might be a little bit difficult too, like we said, but at the same time, they should be easy.
Should be heavy favorites, and I
Yeah,
think in all of them
yeah,
still. Like I said, getting to that Big Ten, which will definitely be interesting. We got a lot more going on in there, but you got the big matchup with Michigan this week. So, boy, watch out.
I hope I don't get clipped.
No,
Oregon does suck.
it'll be fun, man.
Watch them come back and play when it's Oregon.
Right. Oh boy. Yeah, I think you're just talking yourself into it, man. I think you guys are gonna be fine. I mean, looking at it, you guys really do look like the class of the field. And I think that a thing that's been talked about a lot, especially by Nick Saban, he always talked about how he almost wanted a loss sometimes, or just a way
Yeah,
to have adversity, because when they won so much and they go undefeated and there was nothing to really test them, there was nothing to
yeah,
wake them up. Like, a lot of times, even if you don't do it consciously, you're sitting there like, oh, we can just do this. This is, we're going into Illinois
for
and
sure.
they're only ranked 20. We're one, we're undefeated, we're good. But I think that you guys had the adversity, when you did, even though you won the games with, was it Idaho and then Boise State,
Yeah,
like you barely win those games. And I think it was kind of like that test, and you talked about, well, you guys haven't had that statement game, and now you kind of are stringing statement games together.
for
Especially,
sure.
this one, Illinois just did beat Michigan. They've been ranked all year, so yeah, I think you guys are rolling at the right time, and I think Dan Lanning's going to keep those boys, you know, ready to go and not let anything get to their heads.
100%. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move along. Number 2 is Georgia staying put. They had a bye week this week. Number 3 staying put is Penn State. They beat Wisconsin 28-13. The bigger news is that Drew Aller's status, their quarterback, is uncertain for the big matchup against Ohio
Oof.
State this week. And yeah, so I don't know. That's going to be a huge one. Penn State's been rolling this year. Usually it's Ohio State and Michigan are the only teams they never beat. Obviously, if they do beat Ohio State, they'll have to play you. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I
going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I also saw that Ohio State's quarterback, I forgot his name, but he was like, "Oh, it's my time to prove myself against Penn State." That was kind of an interesting comment. I think it's just a game that's boiling out to be a good game. I hope. I hope that Penn State can put up a fight and beat Ohio State. To be honest with you, I'd rather play Penn State because then
Hmm.
Ohio State has something to prove from that last game that we played them, and it's always hard to beat a team second time around. So either way, I think this will be a really good matchup. And Penn State, I'm hoping that they can pull away somehow, and that hopefully the quarterback situation isn't the barrier for them.
Yeah, I think I kind of want to see the same thing. I think it'd be, fun. Ohio State's been the, cream of the crop, so I think it'd be cool to see Penn State, um, you know, knock them down. And I think it would be a great matchup with them and Oregon in the Big Ten. So
For
we'll
sure.
have to see. And yeah, speaking of Ohio State, they're staying at 4. They barely beat Nebraska 21-17, and I was surprised. I was only listening to some games. I was, busy all day. Unfortunately, couldn't watch too much, but I was listening, and I gave up because I thought Ohio State was going to kill him. And then I checked the score later, and Nebraska had the lead in the fourth quarter. I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, got to turn this on. But Ohio State able to finish it out there in the fourth and get the win.
Definitely an unfortunate ending for Nebraska and Mr. Pat
Mahomes
Mahomes
wannabe.
wannabe. So he played a better game this game, to be honest, than the last week before where he got killed.
He did, yeah.
Um, but I would have loved to see Ohio State go down, to be honest with you. But hey, what can you do? They just pulled the strings and they were able to push through. And even though they barely beat this team, they didn't really move much either. So that's kind of an interesting bias because some of the teams that they've barely like other teams that barely beat teams they've dropped like two
Hmm.
spots. So
Well, and you look at like Indiana, what was it? I think last week, Indiana, didn't they beat Nebraska? I want to say 59-0
yeah,
or so, or
huge game.
56-7 was the score. But yeah, like, and we'll get down to them obviously, but they're way further down. And I know, situations are different, but like that's something I feel like you got to look at. I noticed that
Yeah,
about the rankings this week. There seems a little inconsistency, like you said, maybe some bias on how we are treating certain teams' wins and certain teams' losses.
Yeah, because like Miami should have moved up, Texas should have moved up. Like some of these teams, I think that because they did that to Oregon, right? When they lost to where they barely beat those teams, they dropped
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, I
So
want to
it's
say
like,
you
what's
guys fell towards the bottom of
like
the top 10
four?
or out
Yeah,
of
I
the
think
top 10.
we dropped four spots.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think we were like ninth at that point.
Yeah.
So or eighth or ninth, I don't remember, but like come on now, you got to
Yeah.
keep the same consistency. Just because it's Ohio State and it's big school doesn't mean that they get a different treatment. So it is what it is. Like Wesley said last week, like the country said, we don't know how they do the rankings, and if it were up to us, I think it would be a different story, and I don't know if it would be as accurate. So, but
Right. But hey, we're here. We got to look at them. And speaking of the number fifth spot, it's your Miami Hurricanes, Feist. They crushed Florida State 36-14. So kind of sad that this happened to be on the week that Wesley was unable to join because he's been loving his Miami pick all year, and now they kill our team or our pick for the ACC. Who
yeah, I
I
don't
think that Florida State drops to 1-7 overall.
whose idea was to pick them as the conference winners. What a
We
bunch of
got to pay more
idiots.
attention to the ACC. I think, man, we
And
can't just
me.
pick the I think we just picked last year's winner. We're like, yep, they're gonna do
Well, and it was funny because this game was going so well for Miami, they decided to throw a touchdown to Camp Ward.
it.
He got a receiving touchdown, so they look like they're doing what they're doing. I did pull Mario Cristobal. Oh my gosh, my guy. Still don't like you, but it was kind of funny because um he was trying to shade the Florida State team, and so at the end of his press conference, he dropped the mic on him. I was like, I'm out.
Oh.
Oh, I wanted to send that video to you guys, but it was on Bleach Report, and it was just kind of funny because he's like, "Boop, I'm gone. I'm done. Like I don't need to talk no more." Like, and it's Mario Cristobal. I think he's still a great coach. Still didn't visit his grandma, just so you're clear. Got a streak going, but
Yes, sir.
this team is rolling, and Cam Ward's rolling. He's dangerous already, but now he's more dangerous because he's receiving touchdowns.
Yeah. Boy,
So
getting a little Detroit Lions-y with that offense, man. That's pretty scary. And yeah, they're up to fifth, which I think it's their first time in the top five in a long time, basically. A lot of long, I can't remember if it was like 5 or something years, but been a
it's
while
that Mario
for the
Cristobal
for the
effect.
U. Yep. And then going down to number 6, dropping one spot is Texas. They barely beat Vanderbilt 27-24. So
See,
I don't know. Like I think yeah, you're gonna get a little bit because it's Vanderbilt and you guys are supposed to be, what we're supposed to be the top team, but I don't know. You think maybe a little differently that they shouldn't have dropped?
see, and that's the same situation. Like Vanderbilt's actually ranked now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yep, they were
that's
25.
that's a little bit different because you would think that they would have stayed where they're at, or but it's that's where I just feel like it's unbiased. I just feel like you're barely beating an unranked team compared to a ranked team. Like that's the big difference for me. And Ohio State seems like they got away with one. And I'm still not a big convinced that Texas is not the best team on this in this ranking. I really still believe that they are the best team regardless of what's happened. But it's just interesting to me that they drop one, but then Ohio State doesn't drop one, and they're
Right, to
eventually
an
going to
unranked team too. And then
yeah,
like we said, a team that got blown out by a team that's a lot lower in this list. So
yeah.
interesting, definitely. But let's continue to move on. Your favorite Tennessee Volunteers had a bye week, so you didn't have to complain
We didn't
about the 10%, or the
we
the
didn't
fans
have
didn't
to
have to
give
pay
them
the
the
extra
10%.
10%.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
If you don't play and put on entertainment, can't give you 10%.
Yeah,
Sorry.
can't take it. I'm going to keep it in my pocket this week.
Yep.
And then Notre Dame with the big jump, they go up 4 spots after blowing out Navy, who I believe was ranked 23, 24 at the time of this game. They blew them out 51-14. And then I'll let you get into it. You got to do it a little extra for our boy since he's not here. But number 9 now, jumping up 2 spots.
Which once again, I feel like they're just getting screwed a little bit, but it is the best team in Utah. It's BYU.
There you go. There you go. Wesley, I think felt that risk now. I know I did, and
I'm
I didn't
thinking it
like
shook his whole house.
it. Yeah, up 9, and like you said, I think that they're they may be better, but hell, BYU being ranked in the top 10 where we were looking at beginning of the season. I mean,
Right.
I know we didn't project it correctly, but nobody
Definitely
did.
not.
Nobody did. That's the thing. You look at like the Big 12, like ESPN's ranking, everybody's rankings, it basically been flip flopped. Pretty much everybody had BYU towards the bottom,
Yeah.
and they're just continuing to kill it, man. And I think they played in UCF too, so tough place to play down there in Florida, especially for a Utah team. But they killed them 37-24, and things just look like they're going their way, man. And when you can run a fake field goal and get a first down with your kicker running it, and he could have thrown it too, but the safe play was definitely to keep it in his hands and get the first down. I know Retzloff was running all over the place, dropping dimes. So, man, they just continue to roll on. Like we said, their schedule is favorable, continuing
Yeah.
on going forward. They got a couple
They
week
got you
break
guys
before
next.
the Holy War, baby. We are
Yeah.
next game is Holy War. Kickoff time just got announced for 8:15 in Rice Eccles Stadium. So night
Nice.
game. We're back,
Nice.
baby.
That's gonna
There we
be
go.
that's gonna be an insane game. Like that's gonna be their stamp. I mean, and I get it. Utes are hurt still, but I think that it can go anywhere with a rivalry game. Like it can go any team could go and pop off. Any team can mess up that team season. But
Mhm.
like Big Country said last week, if the BYU don't beat Utah, I think it's a big hit for Utah or BYU. It's a bigger hit for BYU than it is Utah, especially when you have a undefeated season. You're ranked in the top 10. Like your next opponents are Kansas, Arizona, and Arizona State and Houston, which you're very much favorites in those games. And so it's
Mhm.
like this is the big one. They can make this one happen. Imagine having a BYU team that's definitely undefeated the whole season. That's a
In the
little special.
playoffs too, man. I mean, and even if I don't know, it'd be interesting to see because now who's there? I think Iowa State's still up there in the Big 12 conference. I
But they
think
have a tougher. I think they have a tougher schedule than BYU.
I
But
think so. They got us at home too, the Utes. Yeah, we'll have to see. And then Kansas State's up there. They're 7-1. Colorado 6-2. We'll get into them, but yeah, those look like the big hitters. And obviously BYU still has that win. So obviously, if they get the Big 12 championship, they get the bye and they're in the playoffs.
yeah,
But they might have a chance, even if they happen to lose the Big 12. If they win the rest of their games and get ranked high enough, they might be able to sneak in the top 12 still and still make the playoffs. So
a
that would,
100%. Because like even Kansas State is 7-1, like you
hmm
said. So I
but that
mean,
loss
there's
is to BYU, so like
yep,
that gets looked at, right? And they
yeah,
killed
and
them.
so they definitely have a big chance of like it. Really, just is Utah is going to be the villain in this, right? Like the that's
Yeah.
going to either ruin one team season or the other team. So hopefully that they, in my opinion, I hope they ruin Iowa State's freaking season instead of BYU. I'm kind of cheering for BYU a little bit, but at the same time, I'm just like,
Disgusting.
it's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good game, but it's gonna be intense. Like I feel like it's gonna be one of those games where. Yeah, I don't know if I want to piss off fans as much as
Uh,
I love to.
I'm getting it's crazy. Looking at where we were at the start of the season, seeing this on the schedule and stuff, you think like you have this sense of confidence, even though you're like, yeah, it is a rivalry game, but as far as the Utes go, like, hey, we're in Rice Eccles, we have a
Yeah,
chance to, we can maybe really dominate this and get back on that winning streak, because they beat us the last time, and now it's not. Like the vibes are completely different, and I hope that Whittingham and the boys come out with some fire in their gut, so
For
to
sure.
speak, and are ready to play instead of kind of probably like a lot of Utes fans are right now and really nervous. I know I am about that game, and it's crazy to say. So
Yeah.
there we go. But got the chance to do most hilarious thing ever if you can, if you're the Utes, and the way to have a successful season, man. I'll just say that if we can pull that off, I'll call it a success. So
Imagine if you blow both of their seasons away.
that would be crazy, man. And that,
Forget
like we've
about
talked
bowl game at
about,
that point. That's a bowl game itself. That's a full
exactly.
season.
Oh man, yep. And we'll have to get into it a little bit later on the professional side because got a little taste of what that might feel like. But all right, let's move along. Let's finish out the top 10 with Texas A&M continuing to work their way up these rankings. Man, they go up 4 spots, take over first place in the SEC standings with a
Nice.
38-23 win over LSU. And it wasn't easy, man. They had to come back from down 10 at halftime. So I think it was the first time either LSU or Brian Kelly lost a game while leading by 10 or more at halftime or something like that. So kind
Man,
of sucked for them boys.
I just want to say quick, um, shout out to them just because I remember saying that what's Nick Saban saying that this is the team to watch out for at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you remember me saying that, and they are just doing work. So it just sounds like they've figured out what the system is, and they're riding along with it. Especially them being 5-0 in the conference, like
Mm-hmm.
that's insane because how stacked this conference is, you know.
Right.
So
Only one undefeated in the conference now, too. So, yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see that SEC, man. I think it gets more and more like you just don't know what's going to happen. I think the Big Ten is kind of shaping out.
yeah,
Obviously, when I think this Ohio State and Penn State game is going to decide basically the Big Ten championship, right? Whoever wins, I think, is going to go in with Oregon because I'm pretty sure they're not going to play anybody
yeah,
unless anything crazy happens, which totally could. But the SEC, you're like obviously
everybody's
now
there.
Georgia's the top ranked, right? But then you
Yeah,
got Texas, Tennessee's up there. Texas A&M is fourth, I think, in the SEC in these rankings, even though they're number one in the standings. So it's a
yeah.
crazy conference, man.
And they have left really realistically to like lose against is Texas. So the big Texas fight, and so their next game is against South Carolina, and then they go to New Mexico State, and then Auburn. So those are all walking cake games.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they can beat these other teams that they've been beating. But the big one, if they could beat Texas, man, they're the dog. I would definitely think that they could compete with a team like Georgia, but hey, things have been proven wrong. So
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna get my freaking butt clipped, but anything could happen. That's
That's
for
going to be a
sure.
crazy game, man. That rivalry week, I think, especially now that it's a 12-team playoff, like we talked about, it's just going to
Yeah,
be more and more crazy because Texas might be able to still make it in, even if they lose. But I bet you, I would think, depending on what Texas does, if Texas A&M loses, that might kick them out of
kick them out for sure.
the playoffs in as a whole. So gonna have to keep a close eye on that SEC, man. I think it's better than it's been, too, because I feel like a lot of times we don't talk about Texas A&M. Obviously, Texas was in the Big 12 before, but like you got that. It's usually just been Bama, Georgia. They don't play each other until the end of the
Yeah,
year, and then whoever wins the SEC championship. But now it's kind of wide open, and you had LSU up there, but yeah, kind of crazy. Let's move along. We have a tie at number 11 this week. Both teams were on their bye week. Clemson dropped 2 from number 9, and then Iowa State dropped 1 from number 10. So just kind of BYU, I believe, and Texas A&M taking those spots over those guys. And then at 13, we had one of the bigger matchups of the week, which was Indiana and Washington. And Indiana continues their undefeated season, man, and they don't move at all after beating Washington 31-17. Now, I know Washington's an unranked team. It hasn't, been the run to the national championship type year like they had last year, and they lost a lot of players, coaches, everything, but I mean, you're talking about a respectable program for sure.
Sure.
And Indiana goes 8-0 and is the first team in the last 20 years to not trail in their first 8 games.
Yeah.
I think that deserves a bump up, and I would probably at least would put them over Clemson and Iowa State at
Yeah,
this point.
100%. 100%. Like that don't make sense to me. And again, like we said, this week has just been a weird week where it just feels like nothing really moved and
Hmm.
nothing was a big upsets or anything like that, but it this one was the biggest shocker for me that they didn't even move over teams that didn't play this week.
Right.
Right. Especially if they're having an undefeated season. So
But
it is what it
Kurt
is, man.
Signetti, their head coach, I feel like he's going to keep them on point, and they can use this as a little, bitterness, a little test or whatever. All right,
Yeah.
we're not doing good enough in their eyes. I guess we can do better. Let's do better or something and really keep them going. I'd like to see who they have on the rest of their schedule. They got Michigan State and Michigan. And then big Ohio State game at Ohio State,
Uh,
second to last week. So that'll be a huge test. They finish off with Purdue. So you're talking about probably able to go undefeated, maybe besides Ohio State, and that'll probably be a really great game. So Ohio State actually going to have a couple more tests than we might have thought.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then let's move on to number 14. That would be Alabama. Not much to say here. They go up one spot. They dominated Missouri 34-0. So kind of a get back game for them. But, Missouri's kind of been falling down the rankings. So then to go to
Yeah.
15, Boise State jumping up 2 spots after beating their rival UNLV 29-24. And talking about our boy Ashton Genty, maybe his worst game of the year, which is kind of crazy to say. It's not something that it's not terrible. If you got these numbers from your running back, I think, we'd all be
Yeah.
happy. But 33 carries, only 128 yards and a touchdown. So that's 3.88 yards per carry and a long of 16, which is just numbers that we have, I feel like not even, those are not been even close by Ashton Genty. He's been breaking those 50-yard runs every game. And what was he at? I think we talked about it last week. He was averaging 9.9 yards per carry
9.9,
going
yeah.
into that game.
Yeah.
So kind of
Yeah, I
crazy
mean it.
for that to be up. And then maybe that's a thing like we were talking about earlier with Dylan Gabriel. Maybe he's able to catch up a little bit with that, with some quiet performances like that.
Yeah, I was looking at this. They updated the Heisman voting. So right now it's between. So it's not even Travis Hunter anymore. It was saying that it was Ashton Genty at +200, Cam Ward at +250, and then Dylan Gabriel next at 380 +380.
Wow.
So it's moving up there, and like this game, I watched a little bit of it too. UNLV just did a really great job of just wrapping up. Hard to tackle a guy like that, but they were going low on him, wrapping him up, getting the tackles in before he could just explode off. Obviously, he's still doing his thing where he's just like gets the ball, but his Michael Myers impression. But like they just did a great job just making sure that they didn't let him escape into these big runs that he's normally capable of doing. And so, and it was a great game to watch. Just actually, because they were at UNLV, we could have got tickets to go watch it because they were doing a thing for Intermountain
Oh
Health
yeah.
employees, and so I was up north anyway. But it's just cool to see that UNLV is competing against teams now, and especially with a great running back like this, the guy who's favored to win the Heisman, and they held him to 128 yards. That
Right.
shows, even though they lost the game, that shows their defense has stepped up and they're doing great since that idiot
I was gonna
left because
say
he
whatever
wasn't getting
bum,
paid 100
yeah,
thousand.
whatever his freaking name was. Yeah, they're definitely a respectable program, and I know that they respected the hell out of Ashton Genty. And I
Yep.
think I can't remember. I think it was their defensive coordinator, not their head coach. I could be wrong, but he was talking about because it was right after or soon after Dan Lanning had done the 12 man in the huddle thing, and there was all that talk about that, and he's like, I wish I'd try it. I'll put 12, 13 guys in there, try to stop Ashton Genty. And he's like, he just brings so much for that Boise State team because everybody
100%.
knows he's the focus, everybody knows what he's capable of, and that
Yeah.
opens up so much for everybody else on their team. So Definitely
Yeah,
came into that game with high respect for him, and it sounds like played him better than anybody else has this
yeah,
season. So it's a respectable program and
for sure.
fight by UNLV. So I wonder, and they're both. I think are they the top of the Mountain West? So could they? They might be able to
I think
see
they
each other
both are going to be
again.
playing again.
We got
Boise
Colorado
State. Well,
State.
Boise State is 6-1, and then UNLV is 6-2. So
Yeah,
top
they got a
of
couple got people ahead of them. Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State because they all have a better winning percentage in the conference right
in the
now.
conference, yeah,
So we'll have to see how that goes. But that would be
could
fun.
be a
I think
good
a really fun
matchup.
matchup if they could meet up again in the Mountain West.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Utah State's not going there.
Well,
Darn
no,
it.
no, nope, they're
Neither
not.
is Air Force. Stick to what you're good at.
Oh boy. All right, well, let's move down to 16, which is LSU. They drop 8 spots after that loss to Texas A&M. Tough showing for them like we talked about. And then Kansas State, they drop 1 spot to 17 after barely beating Kansas 29 to 27. I thought that maybe would be worthy of dropping a little bit more personally, as Kansas is 2-6, 1-4 in the Big 12. So, but that's the
And a
thing. Like we
rivalry
talk
game.
about rivalry games, so things are going to be a little different there. And I do no, it was at Kansas State, so at least it was a home game. But like you said, rivalry games, like we've talked about, anything can happen. So
Yep.
then let's go to 18, which is Pitt going up 1 spot after a hell of a performance on a Thursday night against Syracuse, 41-13 is what they end up beating them by. And I just wanted to talk about this a little bit because Kyle McCord, he transferred from Ohio State. He was the quarterback there last year, and everybody was like, are you kidding me? It's kind of this NIL thing that we've talked about, where you leave Ohio State chances to win national championship, Big Ten championships, whatever you want to call it, to go to Syracuse. Like
Yeah.
nobody's even talked about Syracuse in how long. And he threw 5 picks in this game. 3 of them were pick sixes. And ends the night tripping on his own feet, sacks himself, and right before the announcers were talking about that move from Ohio State, like, what are you doing? And they were talking about it as it happened, and then he does that, and the announcer's just like, I'm gonna leave him alone at this point.
Well, it's
I'm
almost
like,
like that butt fumble from Mark
the,
Sanchez.
yeah.
It's just as embarrassing.
Oh man, and that's what just kind of sucks, man, about like this. Just to not to get back on our high horses or anything, because I know we've talked a lot about it, but just how this NIL thing changes things, man.
Yep.
And Syracuse plays him that money or whatever, and then you can just be like, all right, fine. I don't want the pressure to be an Ohio State quarterback or whatever, where you're going to have a chance to get drafted, possibly go to the NFL.
Yep.
So
I'd
kind of
rather get
crazy,
paid.
but that's the world
Yeah.
we live in now.
I'd rather get paid. That's for sure. Hey, can't get into it. I threw that hot button away
There
for
you
now.
go. Well, let's get back into Pitt, who starts 7-0 for the first time since 1982. So really good season for that program. I believe they got some big tests coming up in the ACC. They got Virginia. Oh, they got SMU this week, then Virginia, Clemson, Louisville, and Boston College. So not an easy schedule for them. Basically, not what they've had so far, but see what
Yeah.
they can do with that. Let's move to 19, which is Ole Miss. They drop 1 after beating Oklahoma 26-14. SMU beats Duke 28-27 in overtime. They go up 1 spot. Army jumps up 2 spots after a bye week. We get a Pac-2 team for the first time this year, I believe. Washington State into the rankings after beating San Diego State 29-26. And then, as we kind of alluded to earlier, I believe also for the first time this season, Colorado
Yes,
is now
sir.
ranked 23rd after beating Cincinnati 34-23. That is, surprising, I would say. I'm sure Colorado's not surprised by it this year, but hell of a game for them. Cincinnati was no, pushover. I think they were towards the top of the Big 12. I think they had lost a game or two just recently, but before Colorado, but hell of a game for those boys.
Yeah, I mean it's looking like Mr. Sanders knows what he's doing over there. He's turning that franchise around and or that college around, and seems like they're clicking in all cylinders. Travis Hunter was able to play this game and actually be more um, more involved in both sides. I know he's been dealing with that shoulder injury, and the biggest news is that they are, for the first time since 2020, they are bowl eligible, and it was kind of cool. There was a video
Wow.
that's out there that Sanders was calling their biggest fan. Forgot her name, but she's a like sweet old lady, and
Oh,
they're telling
okay.
her how they're bowl eligible, and like they're like, "You're going to the bowl game," and so and they're like, she's like their biggest fan person or whatever, and so like it's cool, sweet moment. Like I just feel like I was tricked at the beginning of the season. I was like, yeah, I don't think they're it. Like they're just hyped because of Mr. Sanders. But then now I feel like I'm actually starting to believe that they might be doing somewhat of a good,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm kind of curious to see how they end up finishing out the end of the season because they're kind of like putting a stretch of good wins for themselves.
Yeah, they definitely are, and they're playing a lot better. They had that bad loss to Nebraska early in the season,
Yep.
28-10, I believe, and then they barely lose to Kansas State, who's been a respectable program outside of that BYU loss. So and then
Right.
everything else they've won, and I think they won 4 games last year, which was, three more or four more than they won the year before. And now
Right.
they're up to six already, bowl eligible. Like you said, for the first time, that's impressive. And for how much, we haven't been really big fans, you have to tip your cap and respect what they're doing. And, they're producing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we like them or not. They got to go out there and they got to play the game. And they're doing it well right now. So
And it's
got to
gonna
give
be
them some
hard.
props.
And I was gonna say it's gonna be hard for them because they have Texas. What the hell is wrong
Texas.
with me? Sorry. They have Texas Tech next week, and then they have you guys, and I believe that one's at Colorado, and
Yep,
then they have Kansas and Oklahoma State. So I feel like against you guys and Oklahoma State, I think that's going to be a good tough challenge for them. I don't think Kansas and the Texas Tech is going to be as much of a competition for them, but like if you can beat Utah and Oklahoma State, that's
that's
you put
another thing
yourself in
too,
there. So
man. At Colorado, I think it's a big difference if they were to
yep,
play in Rice Eccles. But even then, like looking at us right now, and I guess the one good thing is, I think we have been sort of struggling to stop the run, and they've clearly been like, we're not a
pass.
running team, so
Yeah,
that might help. But again, same thing I said about BYU, man. I haven't been a huge fan of Colorado, and now, going in, you think to the season, you're like, nah, I know it's in Colorado, we should still be able to handle business. Now you're like, I don't know, man, and that
sure.
could be huge, because we'll have to get into it. But yeah, it's just getting closer and closer. And but yeah, Colorado killing it. Bowl eligible is huge for them. I think I saw something that I don't know if it was Dion. It was probably Dion that said this isn't our end goal either. Like we're not satisfied or something
Yeah.
like that. Which of course he's going to say that. So all right, well, let's move it down to 24, which is Illinois, dropping down 4 spots, as we talked about, losing to Oregon. And then Missouri, I was kind of surprised they stayed ranked, but they go to 25 after losing to Alabama. Um, so yeah, I think that's it, man. I think that's all the college football that we had to talk about this week. Ready
They're
to
forgetting about one more thing. You're kind of all red.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Like it's kind of like that football right behind me, I'm my Utes fandom this year is just hanging on by a thread there. All right, let's get into it. We had a matchup with 2-5 Houston this last week, and we lose our fourth straight game. Man, has it been a tough awakening to this Big 12 and like we've talked about, a conference that we were projected to win, be number one. I think we all three picked them to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
Um, and we just haven't had the team. Obviously the injury to Cam Rising is going to change things. But overall, I don't know. I know we would be doing much better with Cam. I think we could probably win this game for sure. A couple others, if not all, but I don't know that we would be, undefeated at this point.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there's a lot more holes on this defense. Obviously, we talked about how Andy Ludwig stepped down as offensive coordinator, and man, you talk about it. I think I talked about it last week when we lost to TCU and we had that 170-yard touchdown. You take that away, and there's basically no offense. Same thing today, man. Or this weekend, it was. I believe it might have only been like the second play of the game, or at least for our offense. Brett Keithy took a 70-yard screen to the house to get us up 7-0 to start that game. But other than that, man, we were just in it rough. It wasn't good. Houston's able to, battle back. And the only reason we got that second touchdown is because we got a turnover off a deflected pass, set us up with good field position. We're able to get close enough. And Makai is able to run it in for the touchdown. Other things to note in this game is Isaac Wilson benched, and he did injure his uh, offhand, his wrist earlier in the game, but he came
Yeah.
back and played. I don't think that was the reason why he was benched. Maybe it had something to do with it, but it was his offhand. But man, because it was his play, in my opinion. Again, he's a freshman, true freshman. Like, got to give him something. It's tough. It's tough to do that in the college level, especially in such a pristine program and pristine conference. But he looked like Cam Rising against Arizona State, dude. Like, he was missing passes short, like behind receivers. It was not a good look.
Yeah.
Um, the only other thing is defense looked good. Defense played well, but at the same time, it's Houston. So, like, how well can you really say you played when that's not even that high of a caliber team? So, sucks, man. Yeah, now we are 4-4, and then 1-4 in conference play. Um, that lone win against Oklahoma State, and we're looking at it, man. This is not going to be an easy road to get a bowl eligibility, man. We got number 9 BYU coming in. We got number 23 Colorado after that, number 11 Iowa State, and then at UCF to finish the season. Like, I could very well see us losing all 4 of those games, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
And it's just tough. Not our year, I guess, and we got to start building. I think for next season, like I said, there's one way we can call this a successful season, and that's if we go in to Rice-Eccles Stadium in a couple of weeks and ruin BYU's season. Nothing would make me happier this college football season. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the game and then Utah as a whole, man?
Are you guys on a bye this week then?
We're on a bye this week.
This
Yep.
weekend? Okay, that makes more sense.
I believe BYU is too.
BYU is too, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be that game really is what's gonna determine how well Utah season ends. They're both gonna be fresh teams, so it's kind of nice that they both somehow ended up having a bye week. So then you're
Mm-hmm.
having two fresh teams kind of play against each other, while one's kind of already hurt and beat down. BYU gets another opportunity to regenerate themselves and kind of slow down a little bit. But I agree. I thought that you guys could beat this Houston team. I didn't think Houston was that good, but it just sounded like mistakes were made, and Derek was pissed off about it, and it's just one of those things. It's almost like one small thing goes wrong, and your whole season can end terribly, right?
Right.
So like that's
Mm-hmm.
what's happened. Cam Rising went down, and almost like the whole team and
It's just
every single
gone,
player
man.
just went down with him.
Yeah.
So
Emotionally, mentally, I think that's the same thing, and you just don't see the same fire. I mean, obviously, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors in the locker room and stuff, but I just really don't see that, fire from Kyle Whittingham getting the boys ready to play. I mean, we've been in games where, I think Arizona, we were a little bit out of it. We're going to get shocked in that game, and
yeah,
that was going to be a loss. But Arizona State, we have chances to win it. TCU, we have chance to win it. Houston, same thing. And we're just not responding right now. So, yeah, it's tough, man. Hey, BYU season, first season in the Big 12 was tough for them. Maybe it's just a different, kind of football, getting used to different football teams and everything, even though Arizona and Arizona State were both Pac-12 as well. But,
yeah, still
just
different
a little bit of
atmosphere.
a shock for
Yeah,
Utah and a wake-up call. So, like we said, hopefully, and bless his, heart, man, and hope that he figures something out, but just not being the Utah quarterback for Cam Rising next year. And we can move on to build a real foundation and not
Mhm.
have our season determined on
I
Cam
agree.
Rising's health.
100%, man. You can only hope, but their saying is you can hope in one hand. Brooklyn will
Mm-hmm.
testify this. You can hope in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up faster.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, 2 weeks, like we said, Holy War. I'm gonna be there. I'm super excited for that. I know it's not the way we wanted to, but it's like we said, it's a rivalry game. It'll be my first one ever going to, so can't wait, man. We got a chance. We got a chance to make this a successful season. And hell, if we can get that in one more of these games, we can go to a bowl too. So
do it.
all right. On the other side of this break, we'll get into a insane NFL weekend. So we'll catch you on the other side. And welcome back. So let's get into the NFL portion. But before we do, we just had some breaking news go down while we were recording, actually, that last segment. Jack Tuttle, Michigan quarterback, after sustaining his fifth concussion, has decided to retire, saying that he needs to focus on his health. So, wow, very shocking, especially at the time with all the Tua stuff going on. But hopefully this is the best decision for him and his family and everything. Wish him nothing but the best. But yeah, sad situation there. 5 concussions, especially, before you even, if you were to go to the NFL, but just at the college level, that's tough. So sorry to hear that for him, and prayers out to him and his family. Hope everything works out the best for him.
100%, man. You always want players' health over a game of football, right? Like, you can love the game as much as you want, but you always want to make sure you're putting the players' health first. And so good for him to take the opportunity to realize that and just kind of move on and do the next chapter of his life. And I hope it goes well for him. So
100%. All right, well, let's get into the NFL. And let's start with Thursday night football, man. Banger of a game. Finally, we get another good one. I think just the
yeah,
second one all year, but Rams and Vikings. And this starts out with some crazy news that came out of nowhere. I think we were maybe expecting Cooper Kupp to return, but out of nowhere, man, Puka Nakua back on the field. And he wastes no time getting right back into the game, man. It was hilarious. I was debating all day because I think I've mentioned on here that I have him in 2 leagues. I played him in one for sure because my it's just a deep team and my team has had some injuries and stuff. So I definitely played him in one, but I think I was just going to play him no matter what. And I'm glad I did, man, because I think he had 18 points. He had, I want
he
to
had
say,
108 yards and like 8 receptions or something like
yeah,
that.
big day. And from the get go, it was hilarious. He dropped his first target, and I get a text from our buddy Sean and go, Puka's washed. And right as he sends that text, he gets like a 25, 30-yard gain or something like that. He goes, "Oh, I had to eat my foot there." But yeah, man, it was a hell of a game, and the announcers mentioned it a lot in this game where they are finally back healthy. For the first time this year, both receivers on the field like that, and the announcers kept saying if they win this game, they're 3-4. And they're in a conference or a division, yeah, that has not been great. Even the Niners have been struggling. The Seahawks have been struggling as of late. Cardinals aren't, top of the cream of the crop. So they kept saying if they win this game, Cooper
Right.
Kupp might not actually be traded. And Sean McVay actually came in and said that he wants to shut down any chance that Cooper Kupp could be traded. And it says that he hopes that, that nothing will change on that front. They want him there. So awesome to hear from that. Um, find it hilarious that even though I played Demarcus Robinson like 2 to 3 weeks there and he didn't do shit, that he gets 2 tuds in the first game back with all the receivers. But yeah, no, great game, man. Both offenses came out and scored touchdowns on the first 4 possessions. It was just bang, 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 going down right down the field for both the Vikings and the Rams. But then we get into the controversy, man. Vikings get the ball back to a potential game tying drive. And man, I I don't know. There's been some bad calls. There's been those Saints games what we've talked about and given Hunter a bunch of shit about, but what a blatant face mask call that was not called. Even the defender puts his hands on his head and is like, "Oh fuck, I
Yeah,
just fucked it up." And officials right there. And you even have a second one that has a really good angle too. No call, ends up being a safety, and the Rams get away with this one. What did you see there? What do you think about something like that?
yeah,
And imagine being a Vikings fan, man. I can't imagine how pissed
yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
be.
I think I kind of had a feeling that the Rams would pull away with this, especially with their starter receivers both coming back. It was just a good game. Cooper Cup had like 52 yards and like a touchdown as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Puka just doing his thing, just kind of going off with like where he left off. And so I just felt like the momentum was with the Rams. I think
Mm-hmm.
the Vikings are kind of starting to run out of steam a little bit. The hype's kind of going over, and so I think now they're just kind of trying to survive. And I think that this call was just a little out of the. I don't even say if I would say ordinary. Like it was just such a bad call. Like
Mm-hmm.
how do you miss something like that? And so it and we say this over and over again, you never want a call to be the deciding factor of a team winning or losing. They still won by 10 points, but that was a big
Yeah,
game
that
changer in
safety,
that
they were
moment.
up 8, so they had a potential to go down and tie.
Yeah,
And you never know. It's not the Rams' fault. The Rams came out, played the game that they did, and I
right.
think still deserved to win. But you definitely like to see games like that decided by the players, of course. And when it's that crazy, like it wasn't even a PI call that was neither here nor there. Both
Yep,
receivers were fighting this or
100%.
that. It was, hooked, grabbed, yanked. I
Yep.
thought that Sam Darnold might be hurt after that. It was so bad. So sucks for the Vikings and Sam Darnold to not get a chance. I know Justin Jefferson was quite upset, displeased, as you should be. After a call like that. So that sucks for them. I think that they still got a great chance to even still win the division. I know we'll talk about the Lions and the Packers later, but they have a chance to win the division. They got the Colts coming up on Sunday Night Football. I think that's definitely a winnable game for them. And if you look at their two losses, I'm gonna still call this a one possession game because that's what it should have been. It shouldn't that
Right.
safety shouldn't have happened, and they barely lost to a great Detroit football team. So I still, believe that they're gonna have a successful season, make the playoffs. I'm still riding with the Lions as my NFC North pick, but it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome to see. So let's
Yeah.
talk about maybe an even better division in football, or at
Ooh.
least I don't know. I don't care,
Oh.
but let's get into it, baby. Jets, Patriots. Oh, what have I been saying? Fuck the Jets, baby.
J-E-T. Jets, Jets, Jets. Suck,
Ooh,
suck, suck. Oh,
baby, do they suck so bad. So let's just get into it. Pats win. We're back, baby. I can raise my hand now. My team has won in the past month. Just my professional team. Crazy to say, but yeah, wow, dude. And like I was saying, the chance with BYU to ruin their season. This is exactly what the Patriots did to the Jets, man. And I know they were already pretty down and out, 2-5. You think there was a sense that they could come back, play the Patriots. You get back on good, but not so fast, man. And it wasn't a great game for the Patriots by any means. I
right.
think it would have been a lot better had Mr. Drake May not gone down. So he did start the game. Man, it's fun. I'll tell you what. Obviously, never had a quarterback that's been mobile at all. Obviously, since I've been watching, Tom Brady was Tom Brady, and then Mac Jones was not the guy. I guess that's a lie. We have the year of Cam Newton,
Yeah,
but that was
that's all
different.
he did.
He was injured and stuff like that. Drake May, man, he reached a top speed of over 20 miles an hour, I think, on a 17-yard touchdown rush. His
Wow.
first one of the game. Then, man, I don't know. I do not know how I'm feeling about this Gerard Mayo era, man. It just new era. I don't see other coaches doing shit like this, but him and freaking our offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt do this little do do. tap their foot together, like do this handshake thing after that touchdown. And I'm like, what are we doing? It's just the same vibes as the Gatorade bath I've been talking about all season from week one, man. Fucking hell.
Man, I didn't. I actually didn't watch this game. That I've never seen a offensive coach and the head coach basically doing a handshake. That's just
I
so
get a high
weird.
five. I get maybe a hug after a
Or even a
huge win
shoulder
or
bump, like
something.
you just
A
something
win
small.
too, but this was a touchdown. First touchdown, I think, in the first quarter of this game, So yeah, interesting. But like I said, so moving on later in the first quarter, helmet to helmet, another no call by the officials happens to Drake May. He goes down, is later ruled out with a concussion in this game. So that was tough to see, definitely, and especially what we've seen from Jacoby Brissett all year. Pats fans were not happy when the Patriots decided to just run the ball out, not try to score at the end of the half. But I think it might end up working out for them. They got to go in, they got to reset. You have a totally different game plan
Yep.
when you have Jacoby in there
Yep.
versus Drake May, obviously, two very different players and quarterbacks. So maybe that's what it ended up being. But, we still struggled to stop the ball or stop the run and run the ball. Jacoby or Ramondre Stevenson, he had 20 rushes for 48 yards. So nothing crazy there. He did end up getting into the end zone twice, getting a 2-point conversion as well. So got some points there, but just as far as actually running the ball, not that great. But yeah, Jets were, kind of in control of this game. I think one thing that maybe one prediction I've had right is that I think Garrett Wilson now Gonzo was on Devontae Adams all game. So I think if Gonzo was on Garrett Wilson, they decide to shut that down.
Yeah.
Maybe it goes a little different, but it looks like Garrett Wilson is starting to thrive with just having that Devontae Adams attention there because he had 5 receptions for 113 yards. So big day for him. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Jets side of that? And yeah, before I get too much into the rest of the Patriots in the end of that game, man, what do you think about
So
that?
I
And then
guess my
also Aaron Rodgers, because you've been talking about it, man. You've been quite loud about it. And hey, you lose
so
to the Pats, bro.
my question, my biggest question really is, was it most Robert Sala's fault?
Dude, they have not looked good at all since. And I mean, talk about Jeff
Can you
Ulbrich,
blame
man.
him?
He does not look ready for it,
Yeah.
at all. And I think you just make it harder for your team. Now, I don't think Robert Sala was the long term solution for the Jets. I don't think he brings them to the playoffs.
No.
But he might. He
A
might have
chance.
this year, if things went a little
Yeah.
differently.
It,
And they definitely would be better right now than they are.
yeah, and it just shows like the person I really don't like the most, Aaron Rodgers. He's the one controlling the car. He's the one driving everything. He's the reason why Robert Saleh got fired. And regardless of what anybody says, but it's you look at them now, they're in the same situation they were. And Robert Sala is a defensive minded guy, so he actually could have worked really well with Aaron Rodgers. Like, okay, here's what you're seeing here. Like, let's talk about it. And
Mm-hmm.
like they could have worked really well together, but instead,
Never get
I
the
just feel like
chance.
he did the same thing as anywhere else, but he pulled a knife on him and stabbed him behind the back, and now they're struggling. Ah, when I saw this, I called you and I was like, what's going on? Let's go. Because I just love to see the Jets fall just after what they did to Robert Salah. And I think that what Aaron Rodgers is doing, getting all the players he wants and still not being able to do anything. Devontae Adams' second week where he hasn't really done anything. I get
Yep.
it. He's going against the number one guys, but you're Devontae Adams. That's what is
Yeah, you're
expected. That's why
Devontae
Garrett,
Adams, man. You
yeah,
got to
and
find a
that
way to get separation.
100%. That's why Garrett Wilson is thriving because now all the attention is to him.
Yep.
And there was rumors that they were, and I know it's definitely false, but that they might have traded him away because now they got Devontae Adams, which would have never made any
Oh my
sense.
god.
But
Can
like,
you imagine? That would be a Jets thing to do though.
yep.
That totally would be a Jets
So,
fucking thing to do. And I think you guys nailed it on the head too when, this isn't going to fix their problems and we're seeing it, the
100%.
offensive line, there was pressure we were getting pressure on Aaron Rodgers and that's even with a bunch of our guys out like Christian
Yeah.
Ellis out of nowhere pops up. Which, dude, I don't know if you knew this, by the way. I don't know if you know Jonah Ellis. He's from Utah. Just got drafted to the Broncos. There's like
Hmm.
three of them now. There's Christian that plays for us. I think one might play for Atlanta, but they look like the exact same person,
What's the
and
last
they're
name?
all pass rushers. Ellis. It
Ellis.
was
Okay, I
Jonah
didn't know
Ellis
that.
was for us last year. He dominated last year as a pass rusher. But anyways, getting back into the game, yeah, man, it was nice to see. And I would say I did want to mention something about May. I'm really liking his attitude. I know I've been vocal about really not liking like Gerard Mayles and the whole culture right now, but like even after that awesome touchdown, which was a really awesome touchdown, he was like, he tapped his guys on the helmet, gave him high fives and stuff. There was
Yep.
no celebration, no spike. Held on to the ball, ran back to the huddle, like let's get
Yep.
to work. So I think that's a really like cool thing to see from a rookie. And now if you were to be excited and celebrating, cool too. That's you do whatever you want to do. But I like that he seems focused, and determined to get better each and every week and get this team better each and every week. So
Hundred
I
percent.
really love when I'm saying that. And then let's get into the fourth quarter, man. Hell of a drive to win the game. And really, the second half was okay. We were just doing enough the whole game. The offense wasn't really moving very well. Like I said, couldn't run the ball. We had a couple of punt returns from Marcus Jones, man. He's a dynamic athlete, and he got us into some good field position, which
Yeah.
was something, we definitely need. And then Jacoby, man, got to give him his props. He came in, delivered, especially after getting killed all season. Lose your job, you come in and have to play again, and for him to show the poise and fortitude to be able to sit there and win, I loved it. And he had a really clutch drive to win the game. Multiple third and longs. He got one with his feet. He got one through the air. Great pass to Kayshawn Booty, who I'm starting to really love as well. He has, I believe I said, 6th-round draft pick from last year. And I think that's maybe our guy, not even talking about, like I told about the bum Jalen Polk, who thinks he has the best hands in the NFL, who I didn't hear anything. I think he was a healthy scratch this game. So I think after all that, the Instagram stuff and the debacle that was in London against the
London, yeah.
Jaguars. He's getting it, he's getting a little rude awakening, and hopefully that helps him. So but I'm liking what I see out of Booty. The rest of the offense, it's pretty awesome. Speaking of Booty, let's talk about the Jets again. I saw this stat today, and it was quite hilarious. So Jets,
Speaking of booty,
the Jets scored 20 plus points, had 0 turnovers, held their opponent, so the Patriots, to less than 250 yards of offense. And since 1940, teams were 756 and 0 when having those stats. So only the Jets are in that loss column. After that, only the Jets, baby. So
that's good.
I'd love to see that. And then getting back into your boy, man, he had his post game press conference, and he had the light was shining so perfect you couldn't see the top half of his face at all. And his head coach had talked about we're in a dark spot right now, and I think everybody on the outside feels all this pressure. We don't. We are focused internally, something like that. And they asked Aaron Rodgers about that, and he goes, "I've been in the darkness before. You just got to go in there and make peace with it."
Sure, kinda.
Yep, he said.
Alaska, come to talk over there.
Oh boy, and
Or his weird retreats.
yep, I guess have fun in the darkness, man. I guess if that's what you really like, but
Love
yeah,
to see it.
our defensive tackle David Gottschall also he had something to say, and this was pretty crazy to hear publicly, but he's on the same page as you, man. He said Aaron Rodgers doesn't look like he can move around anymore. He doesn't look like the same guy out there anymore, and I think that's what you've been saying for weeks now.
Been saying it, man. Been saying it. He's not the same guy. He's washed up. Just sometimes it just catches up to you quicker than you know it, and you just don't want to give it up. Like it did it for me when I was running track and cross country. I didn't want to give it up, but you just have to like come to a realization that it's not in no more. You're not enjoying it anymore, or you're just not as good as you used to be, and you gotta hang up those cleats. You gotta hang up those spikes, and it takes a man to do it, man. And I think that's where Aaron Rodgers needs to figure out that he ain't that guy no more. I'm happy about it.
He certainly does not look like that, man. And I saw another thing too that made me, quite happy. It was, when Tom Brady left his team, goes to the other conference, wins a Super Bowl, goes to the playoffs every year. Aaron Rodgers tries to do the same thing and is now 2-6 to start his season. And I think, like we talked about with them last week, I think now through the first 8 weeks, they were 4-3 last year with Zach Wilson, and they're 2-6 now. So
Yeah,
what an interesting debacle that's happening in Jets, and I can be more happy about it, man. I think I said, like, this is the win I like to have, and to ruin the Jets season. Other than that, my expectations aren't super high for this team. I mean, we don't have the hardest schedule coming up. We got the Titans this next week, and not some super tough games. So might see something, but still, we're not. Like I said, we're not able to run the ball, which is our identity. Ramondre is our best offensive player. Haven't been able to get him going.
yeah,
Drake May looks a little bit better. Defense is tough, a lot of injuries, so I'm not like expecting a full turnaround, but it's definitely nice to beat the Jets and see a couple of things really work a lot better. So,
100%. Yep.
all right, well, enough about the Patriots. I could sit here and do this whole podcast on how the Jets freaking suck, but we'll move along. We'll give them a little bit of a break. Let's go into Falcons Bucks. So to start with some news on that, obviously we talked about both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were injured last week. The reports now are that Mike Evans is going to be out probably about 4 weeks. So that'll be after their week 11 bye when they're anticipating he returns.
Nice.
And then a little update, Roquan Smith, who was the guy that tackled Chris Godwin, was fined given the hip drop tackle designation, I guess, for that on Godwin. So that is just a little update on that. Other than that, it was a pretty good game. A little back and forth. Atlanta, I think, had the lead for most of it, and they're able to hold out, get a 31-26 win. And your boy Kyle Pitts, he had himself a day on National Tight Ends Day. Had 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 91 yards. Even though I don't know if you saw it, but looked
That
like
was
he
not a
definitely
touchdown.
dropped that second touchdown
Yeah, it
before
was
he
not a
crossed the line.
touchdown. I'm not gonna argue with it because it gave me fantasy points. That was definitely very, very
How do you go
questionable.
review that and they come back and still say it was a
What?
touchdown? That's what I didn't understand.
It's like how remember when Oregon had that touchdown that like when they kicked returned it back from Utah? It was on Utah, and the guy barely dropped the ball right
Mm-hmm.
before he ended the go. Right before he went into the end zone, and they called that back. It wasn't a touchdown.
Yep.
It's literally the same
Looked like
thing.
the
So I
same
don't
exact
know
thing, dude.
how you missed that 100%. I think good for my fantasy team, even though it didn't do me any good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 0-8, baby. Still cooking it. Still trying to
Hey, I
figure
thought you
out
had a
what's
little
going on.
chance tonight. Is it gone now? Have you checked in? I
I
think
have
you had
not
like an
checked in.
8%, but
I've given up, man. It's just a
uh,
washed up season. You start out with injuries and you finish with injuries. I don't care no more. It is what it is. All we're trying to avoid is that losers bracket taking last in it. So
there you
I
go.
have 1% chance making the playoffs.
Oh.
I think that's before this week.
It's
But
tough, man. And you've always been in it. You've been the number one seed. You've been in the playoffs. So I think, will this be your first time since we
first year,
started the
yeah,
losers bracket?
this is first year that I will be in the losers bracket.
Wow, that's a heck of a
I
run.
think
Hey, it
that's like
happens to the
six
best
years
of
or
us.
7 years. So
Yeah, happens to the best of us. Not to rub it
hey,
in, but I had myself a good fantasy day this last week, dude. And even
that was
my
a good week.
bench, I was showing you, bro, because I have Ramondre. He had 20 something points. I left Calvin Ridley, who had a heck of a game. We'll get
Yup.
into. He went off. I'm trying to think who else I had. Now I'm like blanking.
You had three players in 20 points plus.
Four.
Four
Yeah,
players.
and it
Yeah.
was another wide receiver. And I was debating between Keenan Allen, um, Ramondre, and Calvin Ridley. And I picked Keenan Allen, and he's the only guy on my team that didn't score double digit points. We'll have to get into that. But good week for me. Good week for me. And Puka coming back. I feel like, and he wasn't even one of my top performers, but still, like, I don't know, brought the vibes back, baby. Here we go. Back in the hunt, back in the
Here
hunt.
we
So
go, baby.
let's
Here
see
we
what we can
go.
do. Try to avoid at least the losers bracket. That's what I've been doing the last couple of years is barely making the playoffs, losing first round. But hey, at least I'm not in the losers bracket. So, all right, let's move along. Packers Jaguars. This was a pretty good game as well. Came right down to the wire. Speaking of your boy Robert Saleh, I don't know if you heard this.
I did
He
hear
is
this.
a advisor for the Packers, and he's actually advising on the offensive side, which
Yeah.
I think is quite interesting. And to the point that you kind of brought up earlier, and I hear it a lot from or I see it a lot, I should say, from Bill Belichick when he would have his coaches. Oftentimes, he would have his coaches coach both sides of the ball.
Yep.
So, like Josh McDaniel is a very prominent offensive coordinator for us, for a very long time. He started out as a defensive coach, so he likes to flip that up so that because then you spend all this time coaching the defense where you can when you go to the offense, you can look at it through a
And
different
see it.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the type of thing you're getting with Robert Saleh. So we'll see, how that works out. I think him and Matt LaFleur are pretty good friends. I
They
think
coached before together or something like that. I don't remember what the story was, but I thought it was really cool. Like, and he right, Matt LaFleur was actually Salah's best man
I was going to say they were
at
on their
his
wedding
wedding.
line, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they have history together, and I think that's cool because then you take advantage of his knowledge on the defense, and this is good for because he worked one on one with Jordan Love, and so it's good to see him be able to be useful in what he's actually very well knowledge for, and I love it. I think Robert Sasa never been fired, man. Not at least in the middle of the season, and then the
Right.
way that they did it, I think was bogus, but hey, now somebody notices his talent, they're gonna use it, and it's his best friend. So
Works for him, right? He's still getting paid by the Jets, and he gets to go in a situation without all the pressure. I think I've heard a lot of people talk about too, because he was such a good defensive coordinator. I think we talked about it too, where
yep,
he's just not. He might not have been built for the New York media and
yeah,
being the head coach in such a big
yeah,
market like that.
100%.
It's just not his personality. So hopefully he can go to a place where he's more comfortable, less
Yep,
pressure, and hopefully it works out for the Packers. So getting into the actual game, Packers end up beating Jacksonville 30-27 on a walk-off last-second field goal. So good to see for the Packers there, and they continue to stay on the winning train as they go into a crazy NFC North matchup with the Lions this week. So
yep,
going to be excited to see that. Unfortunately, we do have some injuries. Jordan Love was one of them. He exited the game this week. But Malik Willis came in and played well, man. He really did. I think he was pretty accurate. Might have only had a couple incompletions. Did what they needed to do. Got the win. And well, good news on Jordan Love is that it's not considered a serious injury. He will
hey,
be day to day. So we'll see if he can make it into the divisional matchup because I think without Jordan Love, you're looking at a hard time against those Lions. I don't really think they would have a shot. But with Jordan Love, I think that's going to be a hell of a game. Then a couple more injuries on the Jaguar side. Again, with this wide receiver injury, man. Christian Kirk out for the season with the broken collarbone. And then Brian Thomas Jr. will be out 2 to 4 weeks with the chest and rib injury. I think
oh,
another injury for your fantasy team, right? Didn't you
so
have him?
frustrating, man. Because I picked up Brian Thomas after I think from our fourth week. He was balling out, and I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't I give this guy a shot? The last 3 weeks, he scored 18 points, 15 plus points. And then this week, he was doing really well. He had a 40 or 50-yard reception and a touchdown, and it looked like he was going to go off again, but then he ends up, getting injured and was kind of very limited in the game. And so it's, I don't know, man. It's the year of just me having my players just get injured, and I feel bad for him because I'm just talking about fantasy football, but he was
Yep.
actually balling out. So I just hope that he can bounce back and be able to keep doing what he's doing because Trevor Lawrence looked good and it seemed like they're actually finally clicking. And I know that everybody was having a little beef with him. So
Oh yeah.
it looked like they were doing something, and Trevor Lawrence looked like he was comfortable. And now you lose two of your top receivers, and it's not looking good. And I don't know what they're still doing with the running back situation. I did
No,
see.
ETN was out for this game.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
That's why the okay. So
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe he can play receiver, and the other one can play
Yeah,
running
there
back
you
because
go.
he's actually good at it.
ETN,
So
yeah, he can catch some passes. So, all right, let's go on to Dolphins Cardinals. Another good game. This morning slot man was filled with all these close games.
yeah,
and the Cardinals end up getting the win, and Kyler Murray beats the cod drop allegations and actually has a good game. And the Cardinals, man, Chad Ryland, this guy, as soon as he left New England, I'm starting to think it was all, scripted on purpose. And he did us a solid and missed a bunch of field goals on purpose because I don't know how you could miss him that bad. But he's seeming to find a home in Arizona, kicking the ball well. So maybe he just wanted to give us Drake May, said, thank you. I'm going to go find another place. And hey, good for him. But they get a last second field goal from him. And then other thing to note, I think, obviously we talked about Tua returned and immediately, that offense looks better. I know they don't get the win, not too bad. Fuck the Dolphins too. Now they're 2-5, so that division is looking a little tough besides Buffalo. But yeah, dude, like looking at their like stats, like we're talking about Buffalo's well and away like scored the most points in 230, but Miami still has not scored 100 points this season.
Yeah.
They're at 97, and even the Patriots are at 124. So
It's hard when you don't have your best player on the field, obviously. So they couldn't move the ball with any of the quarterbacks that they had
mm-hmm.
in, and it really did show it on their offensive team. Now that Tua's back, even there was a tweet or some kind of post that Tyreek Hill put in place. He's like, "We're back."
Start me.
Yeah.
I think he
So
said like start me, strike the band or something. Yeah.
yeah,
And they all had a better game. Even the running game got better. So it's somewhat, good news for Dolphins fans, but you definitely need to come out with that win, I think, to really give yourself a
yourself.
good shot to,
Yeah.
get yourself back in it. But we'll have to see what happens with them. All right. And then let's move along. Texans Colts. Again, hell of a game in that morning slot, man. It was hard to pick one to watch, really. Obviously, Jets Patriots are number one, but then other than that, Texans end up beating the Colts 23-20, so they sweep the season series with them. Um, Another injury, Stephon Diggs down with a non-contact knee injury, likely going to be out. They have a short turnaround Thursday night football against the Jets this week, which I didn't know that was like allowed. That's two Thursday night football games for the Jets and really kind of quick, times. And it's not like they're coming off a bye or anything in either of those games. So,
Yeah, I
I
didn't know
mean,
that either.
I don't feel bad for the Jets, but if it were if you're any other team, I might feel kind of bad for
They
them.
still get a whole week though, no?
They just got they played on Sunday and they played this Thursday, so they only get a few days.
Oh, they played Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're
Uh,
on Thursday Night Football again, and they were on Thursday Night Football. I think week 3 when they killed us in New York that one time. So interesting. And then I think the most interesting thing is, what is happening with just this new generation? I guess, man. I mean, how old do we sound saying this kind of stuff? But Anthony Richardson in the third quarter taps himself out because he was tired as a quarterback. I don't know. I guess you didn't see that, but yeah, he just said I need to go out because he had just been doing a lot of running. I guess tapped himself out, said I need to sub out. Is something you never see from quarterbacks, even mobile ones.
huh. I did not see. I didn't watch this game. I obviously Stephon Diggs is on my fantasy team, so another injury. Love that. Why don't we
Tough,
just
man.
continue on? I think I'm just gonna drop my whole team and just get a whole new set.
There you
Restart the
go.
draft. Um, but I didn't see that. That's an interesting move. What do we got a dish on Watson situation going on here? And I want to
I
go
know,
for it
man.
and walk away. Like I did not see that. I would be irritated. Did he come back in afterwards?
Yeah, he did come back in. I
Maybe
can't
medical
imagine. Yeah, like
medical
either one
reason,
of our
maybe
quarterbacks did that. What's that?
maybe medical reason. I don't know.
No, he actually came out and full on admitted in his post game, I was just tired. I did a lot of running. So
Huh.
he full on admitted he subbed himself out. And that's just I've never seen anything like that before. I think it's really a bullshit move, in my opinion. And that's not what you want to see from the leader of your team.
Yeah.
And when you already have had all the people, you've been one, I've been one that's like that Joe Flacco is the better quarterback for them right
Yep.
now. He gives them a better chance to win. Shane Steichen came out and says that the Colts are evaluating everything when he was asked if Anthony Richardson would start this week.
I wouldn't
So
start
yeah,
him.
you might be talking about, a Deshaun Watson situation as far as, that backup is playing a lot better and
100%. I
you
wouldn't
might lose your
start him.
job.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Especially
start him.
after that, man.
If
Ooh.
you're tired, go get in condition then. Like I
Mhm.
would get it if it's like a medical reason or
Yep.
whatnot, but like just to say that you're tired, that don't make sense to me. So I mean, it's the weird situations that's been going on with the NFL quarterbacks, but this is what happens. Hopefully,
Right?
to be honest with you, at least he sits one more. I think I would have sat. I would sit him one game and then
I
see
think
how
so.
Joe Flacco plays, and if he's playing better, see ya. You
And see
lost your
how
starting
Anthony
position.
responds too, right? Like see
Yeah.
how he takes it, see how his attitude is cuz that's an attitude thing, man. You can't be
Yep.
you can't do that
100%.
as the quarterback. If you're a running back, you're a wide receiver, basically any other player besides maybe the offensive line, you can't be pulling that shit unless you're, injured like you said.
Yep.
So, that's a sad thing to see, honestly, and I know like we talk about Pat McAfee's big Colts fan. He hated it. He hated everything about it, and I'm sure all Colts fans do. So,
Yeah.
hopefully
One week.
for them, man, they figure it out. And yeah, I think go with Flacco. Let's move on to a game in the afternoon slot, and really, I feel like the only really good one, man. And it wasn't that it was really good for most of the game; it was pretty slow. But it would be the Commanders versus the Bears. And one thing to know, I think we talked about it last week. Jaden Daniels, he was able to play through his rib injury this week,
Yep.
and played pretty well, but not a lot of offense. Defenses were killing it. Caleb Williams, not killing it. He went 10 for 24 for 131 yards.
We
I
love
think he
that.
did some damage on the ground. I think it was about 50 something yards rushing for him. Let's see, 40 yards. But the Bears running game in general, DeAndre Swift, he had a great day, kept them in it until, man, we got ourselves a game. It was 15-12. Bears have the lead in Hail Mary position, and things you guys have already probably seen all over the internet, man.
Yep.
Bears defender Tyreek Stevenson, as the play is going, not before and not after. I don't know why you can't wait 6 more seconds or whatever it is. As the play's going, he is taunting the Washington crowd, full on, just like, waving his arms up, talking to the crowd and everything. And he turns around and does some stupid ass shit. I think that most football fans know, and obviously football players know, in that situation, you tip down. You
Yeah.
don't try to catch, you don't tip up to the side, you swat that ball down. So not only is he sitting over here taunting the crowd, he runs over and is actually the one to tip it up and right behind him into the hands of Noah Brown and nobody else. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders get a last second Hail Mary win against the Chicago Bears. What are your thoughts on that game and that whole situation?
That's got to be one of the most frustrating sequence of anybody's career to
Really?
do that. This guy, I feel for him because he should have known better. You're a professional athlete, but at the same time, you're like, it would have been awesome if he would have just like you said, swat the ball down for him to actually tip it to him too.
Be the one. Yeah, I didn't see
God,
that at first. I was like, "Oh my god, he was the
yeah,
one."
his hand got to it, and it was like this
Mhm.
basically,
Here
and
you go.
That's so
Literally.
that's so frustrating. But the cool thing about this is I forgot his name. One of the Bears receiver, number 12, I forgot his name, but he went up to the some of the defenders that were just sitting on the ground and
Or
picked
the
them up and
Commanders
said,
receiver.
"Yeah, yeah," or sorry, yeah, Commanders receiver
Okay, gotcha.
went and picked up some of the Bears safe defensive players. I think they were
Mhm.
corners and safeties. Um, that was really cool to see, just because like he wasn't even going out to celebrate, but huge win for the Commanders. Commanders keep proving people wrong. Jaden Daniels keeps proving people wrong, and it's looking like this man can't do anything wrong. So I'm
NFC East, book it, man. Book it at this point. We'll have to
100%,
get into it, but
100%. The only
Dude, they
person
look
that's
like the
in their
cream of the
way is
crop
the
right now.
Eagles. So
Yeah, man, and that just a weird game. And again, we're talking about this kind of attitude. I don't know how old Tyreek Stevenson is. Obviously, unless you're probably a Bears fan, you don't know too much about him. But that is just a dumbass move. I mean,
yeah,
you're talking about a very low percentage play, and
low.
to do that to the crowd before during the
He
play.
had a sprint over there.
Yeah, you never know what could have happened, and obviously he's going to be in a much better position if he stops and is not looking at the fans and is paying attention to the play the whole time. So, but yeah, man, Commanders do it. Jaden Daniels gets it done, and I think you book him for Rookie of the Year, no doubt, especially after this
100%.
performance against Caleb Williams. Um, but man, I think he should be talked about for MVP. I
Yeah,
mean, he is insanely accurate. This was one of his most inaccurate games. Actually, he was 21 for 38, still threw for 326 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. But he was. I remember we talked about he broke those records for like highest completion percentage in a game over 2 weeks, stuff like that, and
yeah.
he's obviously doing it with his legs, man. I think that right now, like he may be the MVP in my eyes. I don't think he'll get it. The rookies don't really ever have a chance. I don't think he will, but
Why
I think he
not
should,
though?
man.
Yeah, why
I think
not?
he
I
should.
think between him and some other guy named Mister, should I give it away a little bit? Jared Goff. I think between him, those two have been balling out. So it's like,
Killing it.
who else are you really gonna give it to? Mahomes because it's Mahomes.
Yeah, I
Like that
fucking
just
hope
don't
not.
make sense to me. I always feel like it's MVP is the most valuable player to a team. Like that's
Yeah,
what they forget. And I
you
get that
know.
Mahomes is like the most valuable player to the Chiefs, but at the same time, sometimes it shouldn't be popularity because.
Hmm.
So, anyways, I agree. I think he should be in that conversation. I think that he shouldn't be limited based off of him being a rookie. I think if he's balling out, give him Rookie of the Year and MVP. I've done it in 2K, so
Why not? Why
why
not in
not?
real life? Why not
Yeah.
in the NFL?
So
Yeah, I agree with you. Then I think another person too. We'll talk about him when we get to their game. But Derrick Henry too. I think even though that he's not
yeah,
a
100%.
quarterback, it's a quarterback league. But another guy that should be in it. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's move along. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That was my lock. So let's get into the picks. 10-point favorites over the Raiders. They get that win. And I don't know. For some reason, I felt like we talked about it, but I guess we did not. I think it might have happened right after the podcast. But official DeAndre Hopkins got traded for
Oh
a
yeah,
fourth round pick to the Chiefs. Hey, AFC teams, anybody. Oh, which I didn't even mention too. So we'll talk about another trade they made. Stop trading to the Chiefs. Stop trading good
100%,
players to the Chiefs. Haven't you
100%.
seen how good they already are?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness! But he doesn't have a huge role. Obviously, he got traded that week. Just getting in there, learning the system. It's quite a complex system that he's got to learn to. So I don't think he did too much in this game, but obviously he's going to help them big time moving forward. They do get the win again after not really playing that great of a game. They find a way to get a win, stay undefeated, and of course, the first time I that was one of my players on the bench, Travis Kelsey. As soon as I bench him for the first time this year, besides his bye week, he gets his touchdown on
yeah,
National Tight Ends Day. I should have known. It was the Raiders. I should have known, but Dalton Kincaid did enough for me, and so did the rest of my team. So not as mad, but I had a feeling if I
yeah,
played him, he would have had 5 receptions for 19 yards, and if I benched him, he was going to have a touchdown and on 100 yards. And I think he almost reached. I knew that's what would have happened, but we're able to do it anyways. So they get that. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, they had another trade just after this game. Josh Uche, my boy from the Pats, he is traded for a sixth round pick. He's been on the trade block all year. Not very surprising. But again, even though he's not like a top tier player, another pass rush option for them. Come
will
on,
do
guys.
well. Yeah,
Come on, guys. So
do
yeah,
well.
not much else to talk about that game though. It's pretty boring. The Raiders did keep it, close. So I think it was a better game than a lot of them expected.
For sure.
Like I said, they lost 27-20. So yeah, crazy game there as far as Chiefs just still finding a way to stay undefeated. And now what does that make them officially 7-0 and still not playing their best ball, which is really scary. We'll get into my underdog, which was the Seahawks. They were 3-point underdogs to the Bills. And that was not a good pick. The Bills end up crushing them 31-10 in quite the raining downpour game, man. It was raining over there in Seattle. Bills
Yeah.
able to dominate still. Josh Allen did throw his first pick of the season. Didn't really matter overall. They were able to keep it. So good win for the Bills there. Not happy to see how well they are doing as a Pats fan, but yeah, like I said, looks like they're running away with that division.
Quick mention though, this game was Mr. Amari Cooper decided to not show up to play football. The dude had like 3 yards of 3 yards, and I think he had like
One catch.
one catch and like I don't know how many targets at him, but like what the heck happened to the guy? He just all of a sudden went quiet this week, and last week he ended up grabbing a touchdown and didn't even know what play was happening. So like that was a little frustrating for me, just because he's on my fantasy team that he didn't do. I think James Cook just took over this game and was just doing everything. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of frustrating that Amari Cooper all of a sudden went back to Amari Cooper at the Browns.
I think that they were able to get him open and had some packages for him last week. I think it's still going to be a little bit of a feeling out period. Get used to the offense. Get used to Josh Allen. I think he'll bounce back. But
Hopefully,
yeah, I think hopefully for you, get you just a win. Just a win this season would be nice. I'm sure. Let's move along to my random, which was the Chargers over the Saints. And man, this was talk about a tough game. I think it was 2-0 before I could even turn it on. Saints got a safety, and then it was like 2-3, 5-9 in the first half. I mean, you're talking about just a rough game. Chargers are able to get it going in the second half. They beat the Saints 26-8. And yeah, Chargers looked good. Saints did not. Spencer Rattler benched again. Just looking like, he's a fifth round pick. I think that, he got thrust into a situation he wasn't ready for. I don't want to be too hard on the guy, but just doesn't look ready for sure.
yeah,
And then other than that, I did want to mention Kamara has been playing through a broken hand since week
yeah,
5. So shout out to that guy, man, being tough like that. And then I think the
dirty
biggest thing
play.
from this play was the dirty play by the
Yeah,
Saints defender, dude, rolling up on Justin Herbert well after the play, well after anything was possible. Again, no flag on this, which, I think even if Wesley were here, and Wesley's been obviously, he had that whole rant last week about, unnecessary roughness and on the quarterbacks and stuff. That was unnecessary. And I love the, Chargers tackle coming in and
and hit him.
just diving on the
Yeah,
guy. And like, you don't do that to my quarterback.
yep,
And Herbert
100%.
was pulling him away, trying to be like, it's whatever, it's fine, it's fine. But dude, that was a bullshit move, man. And again, these refs just missing this shit, man. It's not
Yeah,
okay.
I saw this play and I sent it. The first person I sent it to is Julio, because
Yep.
he's obviously our big Chargers fan, and I'm a big Justin Herbert fan, my guy.
Yeah.
And so that was super dirty. And I did like I think his name is Boza or something like that. His lineman coming in and just whacking the dude right back. Like that's there's no need for that, because he's been injury prone for his ankles. He's had injury problems, and so now you're just trying to take the dude out and take a cheap shot at him. Like, and of course Justin Herbert's a good guy and trying to pull away his
Yeah.
guy that's defending him, but it's frustrating. Like that should have never happened. And
Nope.
like you said, for
And a
them to
flag
miss
should have
that,
been
that
thrown,
sucks.
man.
Yeah,
Flag
100%.
should have been
Eject that
thrown.
guy. Yeah,
Hopefully he'll get fined. A lot of times the NFL will go back and look at those kind of plays and
yeah. I
stuff,
hope
but
so.
I wonder if, because I don't know what the letter of the law is, but a lot of times I think a flag might have to be thrown for him to get looked at. So
The
again,
targeting goal, or the one where it was the one that just got fined the 16,000, was that the flag was
oh
thrown?
yeah, I guess you're right. That wasn't a
Oh,
flag on the field, but that's also the new hip drop thing, which I don't know if they've thrown a flag. They probably have thrown one or two
oh.
by now, but not a
Yeah.
lot, even when they're happening. So I don't know if that's different, but you may be right. That's a good point. Maybe they
Yeah.
can do that.
And
So
they still will go back and look at it and say, okay, F this guy.
hopefully
I
he
would
should,
find him
man.
hardcore. Make sure he
Dennis
knows
Allen
not to do
came
that.
out. The head coach for the Saints came out and said that it wasn't a dirty play. Nothing malicious happened there. And I'm like, bullshit, dude.
Then
And
what was it?
I mean, defending your guys, I can understand, but I mean,
It's
I think I just no comment that thing and be
yep,
like, I'm focused on
100%.
this week. So, all right, well, let's get into Wesley's picks since they weren't here. And first one, man, was his lock: the Ravens over the Browns, and the Brownies and JMO freaking
J-Mo,
get the
J-Mo.
win at home, 29-24. Jameis Winston's first start being Jameis Winston, man. I don't know if you've seen the post game, the pre-game clips.
Yep.
He started hyping up his team. You play for the logo on your, and he goes, "Oh wait, we ain't got no decal," but whatever. And then he quotes freaking Eminem in his post game. I think he said, "From a white boy in Detroit who I have much respect for. You get one shot, one opportunity." And started like just speaking the lyrics of the song. Jameis Winston, man, gotta love that guy.
Yeah.
It's Jameis Winston football right there. And to the game, he actually played really good. I think he had over 300 yards passing. I think no interceptions, a few touchdowns. Yeah, three touchdowns, 334 yards passing. Looked awesome, man. And the entire Browns team looked
Look
really
better.
good
Yeah.
at the
100%.
running game. The receivers, dude. If Mari Cooper was there, Jameis Winston, he never got traded.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that, dude. And I know we
Yep.
made jokes and we've talked about it. We've said, don't wish harm on anybody, but honestly, if you're a Browns fan and even people that are not, I think you're happy that this happened and it worked out the way to where they didn't have a choice to start
Yeah.
Deshaun. And now you got a guy who the team's going to rally around, who's a better option at quarterback,
Yep.
regardless of the personalities. He's a better option at quarterback, and it's awesome to see him balling out in the only way Jameis Winston knows how.
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment on this was only that Nick Chubb didn't do too well. I think he only had like 35 yards of rushing yards. But I mean,
52, it says.
that
Yeah,
was a
nothing
52.
crazy.
Yeah,
I
nothing
think
too
he's still kind
crazy,
of,
but
getting into it. He had a
I
crazy
agree.
injury and stuff, but
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the only disappointment, but everything else, they seemed like it was really clicking. Everybody was, like you said, rallying behind Mr. JMO and just kind of doing his thing, man. He seems to be enjoying the game again, and everybody seems to be enjoying it themselves. So I'm happy for them, and I think like as much as you, I like Lamar Jackson. I'm writing this Mr. Jim Weston's story because it's a good comeback story, man. He
yeah,
deserved it, and it should have always happened before. So,
I love it for him, man. And I know, like, our buddy Hunter, he was always a fan of Jameis Winston too. And
yep,
when he was in New Orleans, and I think it was after Drew Brees, he always wanted Jameis Winston to start. And
yeah,
guys just kind of, not gotten the luck of the draw, or just hasn't gone his way. But I love it. I think that the Browns genuinely, the way they look just on the eye test, and the thing is, because the Ravens are still a good team, I think that they could turn around their season. I don't know how late it is now, how much they can do, but depending on their schedule and everything, they got some juice. I think everybody's going to be excited on that team to play. So,
100%.
not what I know Wesley wants to hear, but at the same time, beat the Ravens. So, no, he's not
Ravens.
happy about the pick, but he's happy that the Ravens lost, I'm sure. One other thing to mention on this game, though, offensive and defensive players for the Ravens, even with all how awesome, Jameis Winston, the Browns played, Ravens had their opportunities to win that game. And I'm talking like wide open passes, interception that would have probably won the game for the Ravens just dropped. So it's definitely tough to see. Lamar was not happy about that. Think he slammed his helmet. Understandably, I would do the same thing after a frustrating loss like that. So I think the Ravens are still going to be okay. They just ran into a good football team. I think that the Browns might be a good football team at home. So
Yeah,
let's move along. Let's go to Wesley's underdog, which was the Eagles. Sorry to say, buddy, but he gets the points for that game. One thing to note was T. Higgins was out for this. and that the Eagles continue their streak. It was pretty wild because they were driving at the time, but they continued their streak, 0 first quarter points this entire season. So just
Yeah.
not being able to start out strong, but they finished strong this week. 37-17, absolutely explode in the second half. Bengals are limited, not able to do much. So it's not a runaway in that NFC East. Eagles are now 5-2. So good game for them. I know you're not a big fan to hear it, but fly, Eagles, fly is what they're saying right now. And oh boy, we'll have to get into it more because I know it wasn't your favorite kind of week. But let's get into his random pick, which was the Lions, as you mentioned earlier, over the Titans. And god damn, does this Lions team? I know it's just
Oh
the
man.
Titans, but holy shit. They just clowned on. I don't even want to say destroyed. They just straight up clowned on the Titans, man. They
Yeah.
did whatever the hell
They're
they
doing
wanted
trick
to.
plays like that.
Oh my goodness. David Montgomery, you're talking about, yeah, the pass touchdown to
Yeah.
Laporta. That yet another I think that's like their fourth touchdown trick play of the year. And they kill him 52-10 or 52-14. Not too crazy. And you know something about this might hurt his MVP case. Goff only threw for 85 yards in a game where they scored 52 points. I mean, they had punt returns. Jahmyr Gibbs had a 70-yard rushing touchdown. I mean,
Everybody else was working, and Jared Goff didn't need to. He needed
he
to
didn't
take a
have to do
week off.
anything. And it's
When
not
you
that
have a
he played
perfect,
bad either. I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns still, but he just
yeah,
didn't have to throw a lot and get him all the way down there.
yeah, I agree. He's just saving up for what's about to happen when he
Yeah,
wins MVP.
he might, dude. Yeah, like 12 for 15, so he's still super accurate. 3 touchdowns, just didn't have to throw a bunch of yards.
Yeah,
So yeah, crazy, man. Lions are looking crazy, as we mentioned. Got a big game against the Packers this week. We'll see if Jordan Love plays for that one. But other than that, let's get into your picks, buddy.
yeah, let's do it, man. First off, let's start with the lock. Kind of already talked about this a little bit, or a lot, but the Bills. I chose the Bills. They were favorites over the Seahawks. Got my 3 points out of that. So solid game for the Bills. So nothing to say a whole lot on there. And then let's go into my random.
Let's
And
do it.
wait, did I skip something?
It's okay. We could save it for last. Save the best for last, at least for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah, you were
sense.
talking about Denver killing Carolina.
Yeah, yeah. So Denver was 7.5 points favorites over the Carolina Panthers. Just went with the same thing as always.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot to say to this. Bryce Young got a first touchdown. Like as soon as I think it was their first drive, he had a touchdown, and so he looked like he was kind of doing a lot better. But then the big line is Andy Dalton's thumb being bruised up after his car
Right.
accident because it would made of sense. It made sense to start Bryce Young at that point, and then man, there's not a whole
After
lot
that,
that happened
man,
to that.
you looked the same. That's what I saw. I
Yeah,
think even though it was the Panthers, that Denver defense continues to impress, man, and they were able to explode for 21 points in that second quarter. But I think that they're good. They're gonna have a chance to go somewhere this year. They improved to
yeah,
5-3, so I think that's 5 out of their last 6 now that they've won. And yeah, that defense is balling. So
yep,
if their offense can find a way to keep them in it, move the ball, keep them off the field for a little
for
bit, keep
sure.
that defense fresh, they got a chance to go somewhere.
And Bo Nix is looking good, man. I kept telling our buddy Brian, I kept telling some other Broncos fan, give him time, give him time.
Yeah.
He's gonna turn it around for you. And they're all like, no, no, he's not. He's not doing too hot. But now he's looking like he's comfortable. He had a good freaking game. I think he had like
Mm-hmm.
285 yards and 4
3
touchdowns or something
tuds.
like that. And so
Yeah.
like he's playing really well for you. So why not? And then the big news here is Dante Johnson might be looking to be
Yeah.
traded.
How about not to the Chiefs if anybody's already thinking that? Okay, let's not. I know it's out of the conference, but yeah, kind of crazy, obviously. And he just got traded. Yeah, he just got traded
Yeah,
from the Steelers this year. Good for him to get out of Carolina, at least. I wonder what team could, who might want
the
to pick him up.
Steelers.
Maybe the Commanders, Steelers trade for him back. That would be, they could use him.
Imagine.
He'd be perfect. I think Wesley didn't want him because I know that he likes Deontay and what Deontay brings for George Pickens. Sorry, I think I said didn't want him. Didn't want him to be traded is what I
Yeah, yeah,
meant.
yeah, yeah.
Should have said. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he
Commanders would
goes
be a
out.
good one.
Ravens possibly. I
Do
think could
they
be
really
another
need a
team.
receiver when they don't really? They have a two-man offense.
Be interesting to see. Hopefully not
Maybe
the
there's a
Bills. Yeah.
team that. Oh, let's just get into it. The Cowboys. They don't do much.
How about them Cowboys? Feisty get to do my weekly segment. It feels
No,
like at this
let's talk
point.
about it. The Cowboys were 4.5 points underdog.
Man,
So we
heard
end
you
up
might have
losing.
turned off this game at one point.
Yeah, we ended up losing 30-24. Not a good look to start out with. The Cowboys just looked like they didn't know what they were doing. It just didn't make sense of the offense. And then, as always, somehow, the end of the third quarter, start turning around, start doing things that you were like, where was this big game, right? Like,
Right.
big game for CD Lamb. Let's talk about that real
Yes,
quick.
sir.
46 yards I think he had and like
Mm-hmm.
two touchdowns.
Yep.
Freaking amazing game. But you can't do it with just CD Lamb, right? Like
Nope.
you need a running back to kind of complement that passing. You need somebody
And
else
guess
to
who
help
got called
CD
up
Lamb.
this week?
And that's the big
Finally.
thing. And that's the big news of it is that Dalvin Cook finally is being elevated. Bro, it's week 8. Week 9 this week.
Yep.
What were we waiting for? What was he developing? And then it said that after practice he was just destroying or something like that. I'm like, what was wrong with him before? Why didn't we do this? And so
Right.
there's just a lot going on here. So I'm hoping that that may turn around our running game. Um, the big news before all this was the whole Cowboys giving fans these private tours, and the players were feeling like they are just being watched. They're just in a zoo where people are telling them to
Literally.
watch them, basically to do lifts and to do all this stuff and like
I
do a
dude,
trick.
yeah. Like sorry to interrupt, but literally like knocking on the
Yeah,
window, like,
literally.
"Hey man, like let's see what you can bench or can like go for your mat stuff like." And I'm like, that is what you do. That's what kids freaking do at zoos,
Yeah,
aquariums and
like
shit,
do a
dude. That's
trick, do a trick. It's not the
wow.
professional athlete. These are human
And
beings. This isn't.
human beings.
Yeah, it's not a freaking a. You pay money and you can get these private tours. It almost felt like a game show, right? Like that's what it
Mhm.
almost felt like. And Jerry Jones obviously comes out and says, "Gold. Like
He thinks
this.
it's gold. He thinks he's got
This is
something and
yeah. This is different. We're
shows that
doing it different.
he cares more about making the money, man. I mean, how much more obvious can you be? No other program likes that. No player, coach, anybody likes it. They know that they have to deal with it because
Yep.
Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones and he has full control, but that's stupid, man. That's so stupid. And yeah,
The
just
players
getting
hate
into
it.
this players hate it, coaches hate it. It's a distraction. And you can tell, man, this team needs no distractions right now. They need to focus in and there's not a lot going right for them. Like you said, CeeDee Lamb killed it, had his breakout game, 40 points almost in fantasy for me. So
Yeah.
really helped me
Huge
out
game.
there and killed it. But he was literally, yeah, the only bright spot. I mean, next guy up was 44 yards, and then you got no running game. Zeke was your leading rusher with 34 yards, 1 touchdown. Dalvin Cook, six
Yeah.
attempts for 12 yards, so nothing crazy there. And yeah, man, it's sad. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's like kind of sad. I'm actually feeling a little sad for you and the Cowboys and Cowboys fans. Like, you know me, I'm the biggest Cowboy hater. I love to celebrate when they lose. I love those Stephen A videos, and I don't even know if I saw one this week.
I
Maybe
don't
he
think so
feels
either. I
bad
think he
for
probably
him.
felt that bad. The team is confused, man, and it's so frustrating because you just paid all this money to these guys and nothing is happening. You forgot
How
about everything
about
else that comes as a team, right? And so offense is trash, defense is trash. Like it I've gone to the point now I don't even try to watch the games because I don't have anything to expect for. Like what's the point of watching the game if you know you're gonna end up being disappointed? It saves me a big old headache. It saves me time from all the
Can get
craziness that's
something
about to
productive
happen.
done.
Yeah, like, and I can actually do homework instead of having to do that crap. So it's so frustrating, but it is what it is, and that's what the Cowboys are going to be known for until Jerry Jones actually says, you know what, I'm just going to be an owner and collect my paycheck. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
and that's never gonna happen. It really isn't, man. I don't want to like say it. It seems like almost just mean to say, but I think it's just the facts. He has to literally pass away. I think it will be the time that you guys can finally start the new era
yep,
because it's just he just shouldn't be. He's not a good GM. He's not. We've talked about it, like the
100%.
stats where he's been the worst with money or something, like paying guys and the guys that he does pay, the guys that he doesn't pay. And hey, man, I know Wesley's not here, but to defend him, but you've been talking about it all year. Another quarterback you've been trashing on, man. How about Dak Prescott's performance in this game? Had some good moments, but two interceptions, and they're both terrible, terrible
Horrible. Yeah.
interceptions. Especially that first one where he throws it all the way down the field into what, double, triple coverage. What are you doing, man? I
Yeah.
mean, like you just said, $60 million quarterback, and you got Mr. Brock Purdy is good. We're not, anyways, but you got this guy who's making, next to nothing. And then you
Booties.
got Dak
Yeah.
Prescott, $60 million
Well,
on the other side doing that
the
stuff.
and it's so frustrating. I've said this many times. Dak is good until the ball is in his hands and he has to win the game. Period. Like every single time, I don't care what you say. Every single time the ball is in his hands and he has to win that game, he is booty cheeks. He
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything with it except make some ridiculous throw, and then we end up losing, either with a
And,
pick or incompletion. Like, so it's just frustrating. Like even the 49ers didn't have their full team, right? Like they didn't have
mm-hmm.
Debo Samuel, or actually he
He
did return,
returned, but he
but they
didn't really do much.
do
He still
anything.
was
Yeah,
kind of struggling.
yeah. And Brandon Ayuk basically done. Kittle was hurt, but played really well.
Shout out
Um,
National Tight Ends Day, man. Dude popped off. He
and
always does, man. He loves that holiday for sure.
and it just seems like it's all tight ends, to be honest. But then, like, even now, you hear the news that Christian McCaffrey is being activated from the
Expected.
IR next week. So I'm like, well, I don't really care at this point. My season is done. Like, it don't matter to me. But even the 49ers are struggling. They're 4-4 now,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then the dumbest comment,
Oh
dumbest
man.
comment was Dak saying, "We can turn this around. Like us being 3-4 is not a shock. We can turn this around. We still, bro, shut the hell up. Like,
Go
what are you
off, man.
doing? I get that you're trying to keep this team motivated, but there's no motivation happening, man. Defense is hurt, playing like not there after Quinn. What's his name? Quinn, the Commanders head coach now.
Oh, Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. Like
Mm-hmm.
that defense was thriving under him. I would have paid
Yep.
him millions of dollars just to keep him. I
Right.
get that you want him to grow and you want him to be an offensive big head coach, which
Mm-hmm.
look what he's doing with the Commanders. But
Yep.
like it's just insane to me that Zimmerman doesn't look like he knows what he's doing on the offensive side of things.
No,
He is
not in
so
the
bad. I
slightest,
think that they
man.
should have went with Rex Ryan or anybody else that really wanted the job. But Rex Ryan was like, he's
Robert
not gonna pay
Sala.
me.
Robert
He did.
Sala's out there, man.
Imagine if he got Robert Sala and Bill Belichick next year.
Boy, talk
But
about turning that franchise around. But will Jerry do it? And then, did you see what Trayvon Diggs did to a reporter?
oh, reporter. But that reporter was kind of being a dick, though. I
He
will say.
was,
I think
yeah.
that Trevon Diggs should have handled it better as a
Hmm.
professional athlete. But sometimes I feel like reporters think that they can get away with some things, and I think he
Yeah,
was
they can
kind
push
of
the
nagging.
buttons more. And
He was definitely.
you just got done with, sorry to, like, the only thing I do want to hear what you had to say, but the only thing is, like, you just got done with a game where you
Yeah,
lost, where you've been on
lost.
a bad, losing streak,
Yep,
you've not been performing well. You're going to be pissed off. And I think,
100%.
is it what you're alluding to, where the reporters, they think that they can get away with stuff and poke at them, poke things at them, make jokes or comments towards them or their character or their play?
Yeah, like that's literally what he did. He's like, "Well, all you got to do is answer the question." bro, he doesn't want to answer the question right now. The dude's
right?
pissed.
He
Why are
doesn't
you
have to, too.
groping
Like
on it?
that wasn't his, media time or whatever.
No,
He wasn't even in the locker room yet. It
dude,
was on
find
his
me.
way to the locker
I
room.
would be gladly be fined if it meant not having to talk to a press right after a loss like that, and especially where your team is struggling offensively and defensively, and you
Hmm.
yourself, Diggs, is struggling. Like 100%, I would have been like, I'm fine being fine not to go to this press, but this wasn't. This was just like off guard, right by the
Yep.
locker room after he just barely lost. Like, and 49ers and Cowboys is a big rivalry for some reason too. So it it just was stupid. I think that reporter kind of pushed those buttons, and I would have acted it differently, but at the same time, it's different for every player, right? So yeah, I think he kind of deserved what he got, but at the same time, I think he could have acted a little bit differently.
That's a great point. I'm glad you kind of brought that up. I didn't see it as much. I didn't hear what he said. I saw the Trevon Diggs thing, and like you said, you got to handle it better. But at the same time, it's understandable, man. They're humans too, like we say. I think that's
Yep.
a thing that we get, lost in the woods. We can sit there on our couch and be like, "Wow, look at this guy,"
Yep.
acting like an asshole. But
Yep.
you do the same thing to your coworker or something at work when they say some shit like that to you or your friend or family member. Like it's not that easy. It's
Yep.
not that easy to just turn things off and act like a perfect human being all the time. So
100%.
yeah, man. I don't know. It's a tough look, and
We got
I
the
don't even want to
Falcons
say this,
next.
but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not getting any easier, dude. It literally is not. We got the
Eagles,
Falcons like,
Texans, Commanders. Oh
yeah,
boy, you got a little bit. You got Giants, Bengals, Panthers after that, but
but
then
you
you
got to
end
get
it
through
with Bucks,
the
Eagles, and
that.
Commanders.
Yeah, you got to get through that 5 game, 4 game that you have in the stretch, and for Dak to be, oh, I can't wait. The two people I just hope to fail is Dak and Jerry Jones. I just can't wait for him to be like, oh, we're turning this around. We're not a shock. And I hope in this next game he throws like 3 or 4 picks. I just hope. The dude's just
Oh man,
not
that's
it,
what you
dude.
got from your fans, man. That's crazy, and but I understand. I don't think like you're being crazy. I think it's just a wild, wild time, and yeah, I know not your favorite when you got your, like you said, if the Eagles lose, if the Niners lose, it's a good week for you, and
But they
not
both
only do
won
the
and we
Niners
lost.
beat you, but yeah, and Eagles win, and sad to say, man. Talk about turning around. You got
Yeah.
one more win than the New England Patriots. So, but hey, like you said, at least you got a big country to wear that Cowboys gear. That makes it all worth it. So,
100%.
man, yeah, what a week of football, and what a lot of crazy games, especially on the NFL side. I felt like really delivered, and going back into the pickup standings, man. So we both don't get our underdog, but we get our locks and our random. So we both get 8 points. Now the updated standings are I'm at 58 and a half. You're at 57. So just barely behind me. Wesley did lose the 5 points for his lock, got the 5 points for his random, and then the 3 for his underdog. So brings his total to 3 overall. And then we get into our week 8 picks, man. And I know, like when we were making them today, you're telling both of us to hurry up, and it was just hard. These games they're just all interesting,
Yeah.
And so I went. Let's just get into it. Went with a lock, the Eagles over the Jaguars. I'm thinking that they're going to be playing really good. Obviously, Jaguars not, and you lose 2 of your top receivers. It's going to be a little bit of a tough game. I think the Eagles will be able to hone in on the running game, so I go there, and then my underdog. I'm going to pick the New England Patriots as a.
Homer.
Yes, sir. It wasn't, man, there was a lot of games that I was thinking of other than this, but, it was hard. And you're talking about 2 teams at the bottom of the conference that anything could happen. So
Yeah.
rolling with my Pats and see what they can do there. I think either way, if they win, we win another game. If they lose, we get better position in the draft because it's going to be a team we're, fighting for position against.
Yep.
So there we go. And then for my random, I'm going to pick the Bills as 6.5 point favorites over the Dolphins. I think it is in Miami, but I think that the Bills are rolling right now, and the Dolphins are reeling, and it's gonna be tough to kind of have a division game like that when you still got so much left to build.
That's going to
Uh,
be my interesting game that you picked. I think that the Dolphins may be able to sneak away from that one.
they sure can, and Wesley actually thinks that as well. He picked them as his underdog, so 6.5 point underdogs to the Bills.
Wow.
His lock was the Commanders over the Giants, who are only 3 point favorites. So a little bit of an interesting line there. And then his random are the Chiefs, which are 8.5 favorites over the Bucks. That was one of the games I wanted to think about. I thought about the Bucks for the underdog. I thought about the Chiefs for a lock, a random, but that game still could go either way. I mean, the Bucks showed that they can still compete even without their receivers, and the Chiefs aren't playing the greatest. So I felt a little nervous, but those are his picks. And what do you got?
Yeah, so let's get into mine. Next week, I have me the best team in Dallas, as I so say. I picked the Houston, I was at Houston Rockets. Yeah, the Texans as the lock for my week. They are 1 point underdogs to the Jets. That's a funny story.
Interesting. You
That's
know what's actually crazy? That line just moved again. As I just saw this, they are now 2 point underdogs.
to the
I
Jets.
don't to the Jets. I don't know if it has to maybe it has to do with the Stephon Diggs injury.
They still got
Come on.
like freaking people left and right to, and Mixon is balling out. So like,
Yeah,
I don't get what that, and I get that the Jets have a really good defense, but at the same time,
it
I don't
hasn't
get
been
this one.
performing as well, dude. On a
Yeah,
short week, Texans they got that. So that's interesting though. I think you might be the first one to pick a point underdog as your lock. So
yep.
I certainly hope you get that one right. Even though we have quite a battle there, it would help for you to lose those 5 points. But
But the
hey, fuck the
Jets,
Jets.
yeah, we don't like them Jets and Aaron Rodgers, so we'll have to see how that one goes. And then my underdog this week, I went with the Rams because they're hot off the press and they're ready to roll, get that train going, and so they're 1 point underdog versus the Seahawks. Just realized they would have been
Interesting.
1 point, but F the Seahawks. I'm tired of them beating. Well, except last week I did win against them, so
hmm
anytime any team is facing against the Seahawks, apparently I'm picking them. So, and then my
Go with
random
that.
is the Ravens, baby. They're 9.5 favorites over the Broncos. Sorry, Bo Nix, but 9.5 is a lot of points to let slip away. So,
Yeah, I thought about that game too, man. I think that like might even. I almost thought about Broncos as my underdog because I think they're a good enough team. They got a good enough defense.
yeah,
I wonder how if their offense is quite ready and explosive enough to keep up
keep
with the
up.
Ravens.
Yep, 100%.
So, but that game could go either way, man. I think the Broncos genuinely have a chance to win that game.
Yeah,
So that'll be interesting to see, man. Like I said, hard week for these picks, man. There's not really anything that's just super easy. So be interesting to see. But anyways, that was the NFL section. We're gonna take another quick break and get into our NBA roundup. So we'll catch you on the other side. And welcome back to another edition of the NBA Roundup. I'm excited to get into it. The NBA is rolling, so let's go through it. And a couple of things to start off with happened like as we were filming our last one. Rudy Gobert and the Minnesota Timberwolves, despite all of Shaq's hate and everything, he gets more money. $110 million 3 year extension for him to stay in Minnesota.
wow.
So obviously after the trade with Cat, they're clearly going this route. They're going with Anthony Edwards, and they want Rudy Gobert to be their big man. So I love it. I'm happy for him. Happy for the Timberwolves, the Minnesota Jazz, as I like to call them, or the Utah Timberwolves, whatever it want to be. Yeah, super happy for Rudy Gobert, obviously too.
Yeah, I mean, well deserved. 4 time Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. So there's not really a whole lot to say. And since they traded away the weirdest trade, Mr. Towns, it was just weird. But this is their guy, and they're going with it. And they know as they're going to be their guy, but they need somebody to play that pick and roll with him. And didn't work with the Jazz, but I'm hoping that it works here, And so they believe in him and give him a big contract like this helps. So
Yeah,
see what ends up what they do with this next contract. I think he still had like a year or two left on his old one too, so it'll be
yeah.
interesting to see how it ends up going for them the next 3 5 years.
100%. I'm excited for them. I think they have a real shot in the West. They were they I think they were 2 or 3 seed after that kind of crazy 3 horse race with you and the Thunder
Yeah,
last or the Nuggets last year. But
Nuggets. Yeah,
yeah, definitely rooting for them. Let's move on to Boston, the Celtics. Like we were talking about, I think we were in the middle of the game. They tied an NBA record, man. 29 made threes in that game. They were just on fire, blowing out the Knicks, and but then they missed their next 13 attempts trying to break that record. So they tried a little too hard. I know a lot of them was with their their bench guys and stuff, but Mr. Tatum, he comes out with the vengeance. Looks like he's ready to perform this year and ready to show people who he really is. I think he wants to be an MVP. He came out with 37 points in that game, 14 for 18 shooting, 8 for 11. So really impressive for Tatum and the Celtics overall.
yeah. I mean, between him, Luka Doncic, and this guy,
Mr. Shy.
Mr. Sachet,
Yes, sir.
between those three, I think it can be a tight MVP race unless somebody else out of nowhere pops off. But I think it's those three to lose the MVP race to, and so he's just balling out, man. Their Celtics look like they never lost a single beat. They're back to where they were, and they're going at it. So I like Jason Tatum, and I think they're going to continue to grind and continue to show why they're the NBA championships and possibly repeat.
Certainly, dude, and they are 4-0 still. They just beat the Bucks today, so
Yeah.
they're coming out rolling. So yeah, exciting to see for those Celtics. And then let's go to the rivals, the Lakers, who got the opening night win over the Timberwolves. And like you mentioned, as it happened live as we were recording,
Yikes.
Bronny and Daddy Braun make the history, enter the game together, and officially make that father son being the first duo to do that. So that was really cool to see. I unfortunately do think it was certainly forced. He only
Yep.
played 3 minutes. He did get some shooting opportunities. He went 0 for 2. But yeah, I think it was a little forced. Don't really like it. I hate that, I think I've been, definitely, I think we as a whole, but I've been like pretty strong on my opinion of, that for him as a person and what's best for him individually. I know this is really cool, but speaking of him individually, he is going to split time officially. It was funny. This was breaking news on ESPN, Bleacher Report, everything. And I'm like, it's the name. If it was any other second round pick, of course he's going to the G League. But yes, he will be splitting time between the Lakers and the G League. So, what are your thoughts on that? And kind of the Lakers as a whole? They are also undefeated, 3-0, currently beating the Suns 44-38 as well.
Yeah.
Update on that.
Are they playing right now? Their
Yeah,
third quarter
playing
now?
right
Yeah,
now. Yep.
because they played the game two, and I want to quickly mention to that. But let me talk about a little bit of Bronny. I think that, like you said, it's just he needs time. He needs to go play more games. He needs to go play more minutes. He really does have what it takes to be a good player. He's never gonna reach the potential. Like, but so hard, man. It's the
It
next player
really
is
isn't.
always hard when the father is so good, and he's a legend. And he's the best player of all time. It's just hard for them to do that, and I feel for him, but I think this is a great opportunity for him to go to the G League, get a lot of minutes, score, do whatever he needs to do, run that team, and then when the Lakers are ready for him, to bring him back and do the same thing. I think
Yeah.
he has all the right tools. He has a great resource, and as a father, I think it's just a matter of time that it lets him happen. But let's talk about Mr. King himself. He had a
Hmm.
great second game against the Suns. He ended up finishing with a triple double. He had 32 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists. At
Nice.
39 years old, going to 40, getting a triple double, and it's not just numbers like
30 points,
nothing.
too. It's not like
Yeah,
he just barely got the 10-point triple double. 30 points, man.
funny stat. They said um, the highest scoring point. So a couple of things. Braun took. They were losing that whole game. I think down by 22 points, 20 points, and Braun just took over that fourth quarter. So that fourth quarter, he ends up dropping three. So he dropped 16 points in 3 minutes. Before this, that he did this, the highest scoring point per game for a player his age was 12, 15, something like that. I don't remember what it was. It was like 12, 13. He did that plus some in 3 minutes. So he ended up, like I said, he ended up finishing with the triple double, and so this guy just continues to amaze. I don't care, regardless if you think he's the goat or not, but enjoy it. Like
Yeah,
this is just
enjoy it
insane.
while
I
we
would have
have it,
done the
man.
same thing if it was Michael Jordan. I'd have
Hmm.
done it with anybody else, but you gotta enjoy this moment that this guy is able to do this things at 40 years old. There's no way he's supposed to be able to do this, and he's doing it. So
We literally don't know what the NBA is without him. Like
yeah,
he's literally
hundred
played there
percent.
our entire lives, and that's insane to think of, and how he did it. We don't have to go too far. Being straight out of high school,
Yep.
single mother, family, household, and everything that he's done, never been in trouble, and just continuing to, impress and play well. And man, like I said, 3-0 right now, facing the Suns. It's good for them to get out to a hot start. That season can get tough, so the more wins they can stack up early is going to be
Yeah.
helpful for them. Hopefully, avoid the play in this year and see if they can go deep in the playoffs.
100%.
So let's talk about though is compadre in LA with the new stadium, the LA Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. So more news to talk about here. So officially, I think he's listed out for at least a few weeks, first few
Nice.
weeks of the season. I think we were kind of expecting that, but it wasn't quite reported yet.
Yeah.
However, let's talk about something interesting. And I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but I read about it. Huge, long, very long article, but all with some really important information. So I'll try to summarize here. So their former strength and conditioning coach, Randy Shelton, is suing the Clippers for wrongful termination for raising concerns about Kawhi's knee. In this lawsuit, he includes that he was part of a multi year effort to recruit Kawhi Leonard that leapt well beyond bounds of the NBA Constitution, and that is in regards to tampering violations, which I know
Mm.
you've been very opinionated about what Kawhi Leonard has did and with Paul George, all that.
Yep.
So Clippers issued a statement. They deny the allegations, so they're coming out fighting it, of course. And then into that illegal tampering. So this all started in 2017, according to Mr. Randy Shelton, when Kawhi, I don't know if you remember, but Kawhi ended up having that rift with the Spurs that got him traded to Toronto.
Yeah.
When I believe it was the dirty Zaza Pachulia play where he stepped under his ankle, rolled up that ankle. And so that rehab process is when that rift kind of started with the Spurs and wanted him to be traded. Apparently, what happened is the Clippers, this is according to Randy Shelton, reportedly hired him to discreetly contact Kawhi and gain information on the injury.
Mm.
Some other things to note: Shelton, he did talk about Kawhi's ACL tear that he had in 2021, I believe. His recovery should have been 730 days, according to Shelton, and they rushed him back into it because the team said that was unacceptable as far as the timeline. And after raising these concerns multiple times, he was told that they would look into the accusations. And then he later stated that they did not, or they did look into it, but told him that there was nothing of substantial, like no substantial evidence. And they ended up firing him without cause or pay. Phew. So, like I said, lot to unpack there. And obviously, Feisty, we know your opinions on Kawhi Leonard in general. After hearing all that, and let me know if you need me to repeat anything because, yeah, that was, like I said, it was a whole huge story. What are your thoughts on the tampering and the injury process for Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah. I mean, still don't like Kawhi Leonard, but this just sounds like a big old mess, and it sounds like Clippers just doing some shady stuff that they shouldn't be doing. I felt bad for the guy as soon as he's just not been able to play 100%. He's never
Mm-hmm.
been able to play a full season. He's always either injured towards the beginning of the season or the end of the season. He never
Oh,
has
yeah.
played full season where he's actually like continued, especially where he popped off since with the Spurs time and then with the Toronto. Like, so it's frustrating for me because like something like this shouldn't be happening, especially if a coach, an expert in that area, is
Hmm.
coming to you and telling you that your player, something's wrong with this player, something like he's addressing concerns. That organization should have taken that serious and said, okay, well, how can we help? This is our
Look what
guy.
it's
This is our
done,
French guy. But look, yeah,
right?
like you said, what has it done to him?
Made it
It's
worse. Look at
ruined
all these
basically.
injuries, man.
Yeah,
What are they saying about his knee too? That like his entire knee is
it
just
doesn't
fucked up.
heal. Yeah,
Right?
it does
Yeah.
not heal. So it's like, what's the point then? Dude, the dude just needs to retire, like
Right.
medically, because you can't really play full season. You can't contribute to a team. And then you did the whole bull crap thing with talk about tampering and all this crap. You did that same thing with Paul George, but it's frustrating. And I really hope that this Mr. Schultz or Shelton does get what he's suing for because the Clippers have always been a low, weird team
Mm-hmm.
and they always wanted to compete with the Lakers and they just couldn't quite get there. And so you just hope that everything gets proven right and that he ends up like showing that it's sometimes it's nice to listen to the expert because he was the expert into this and especially to hire him just to figure out information on his injury and he tells you
Right.
it's going to take you
And I think
730 days. That's insane.
yeah,
And
he
nobody
did
else
have a
does that.
good relationship, I guess, with Kawhi. They worked together at San Diego State when he went there
Okay,
for basketball. So I think that's why they picked him and everything. I think he said that's the only reason they hired him too, was to
interesting.
try and get Kawhi and
Or
everything
to
like
recruit
that.
him. It makes
So
sense. That's
yeah.
his guy. I mean, you're going to stick with your guy. So unfortunate circumstances, but I hope that the Clippers get penalized hardcore for what they're doing to Kawhi. Ultimately, I still think that he's still a good guy, regardless of how much hate that I have for him, what he did to the Thunder and stuff. But like, at the end
Hey
of the day,
man.
man, player safety is over anything else. Like I've said before, so you can't keep these players safe. You can't just money can only buy you so many things, right? And so and you pay these guys to entertain, but they can't entertain when they're hurt, and you're
Right.
putting their body through that much crap. So
Do want to say I think that, you guys have officially won that trade. So you can
yeah,
look back and be all right with it.
100%.
But yeah, the other thing though too, man, is speak about that Raptors tenure, even though it was so short. That was Kawhi Leonard, man, and when he is healthy, and he has the potential to be the best player in the world.
Right.
He was that good in that run, and that I know that the Raptors had a good team, but like we're not pretending that Kawhi Leonard was really that team. Like he was the majority of it. So yeah, it's sad to see, and this is crazy. Yeah, if any of this is true, I hope the Clippers really get punished for this. Not cool, not a way to do it like that. There's a reason these plans are in place. So
Yeah.
tough to see, but
Funny
yeah.
comparison, actually, real quick. So they compared Shay Shay to Kawhi Leonard. I don't know if you saw that. So
Mm-mm.
they were saying that Shay Shay is literally Kawhi Leonard in his prime. And there are some people on it was on Bleacher Report, and they're like, "Yeah, just hopefully he doesn't end up with the injuries like he has had." Like
I
it
don't
really is.
see.
He's a killer. He has a good. You
He's not
can't
really a
really stop
defensive
him.
guy, right?
No, he is. He is. He think he was he third in steals last year.
Okay.
So like
I don't
he's very
know.
well defensive rounded guy. Like not as in like he'll go block a player,
Yeah.
but like perimeter defense, that's him. And then you
Okay.
can't
Yeah.
really stop him on the defense, or I mean on offense, like Clyde
Oh
was when
no.
he was
Yeah.
on that
He can
Raptors
go
team.
just. Yeah. He can
So
get his shot from wherever he wants.
wherever, and that's how
Yeah.
Kawhi was with that Raptors team. So they're kind of comparing that, and I thought that was kind of cool. But hopefully not the downfall of it though,
Yeah.
and the
Well, hey
shady stuff.
man, let's talk about your Thunder though. They are also killing it, man. Both your actual team and then Daddy Braun and the Lakers are the only undefeated teams in the West, man. 3-0. You guys killed with Denver the other night. I think it was your second game. 102 to 87 with 53 combined points from Shea and Chet, man. So you guys continue to kill it, man. You guys are on fire. Young guys are looking good. I feel like Alex Caruso has come in and picked up right where you guys wanted him to
Yeah,
go. So yeah, really impressive start to the season for your boys.
I think we're 3-0 now, right? We just
Yeah,
beat the
3-0.
Bulls because that
Mm-hmm.
was the weird thing where Josh Giddey was in
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
Thunder do this like traditional thing where they all gather for the interview, whoever's getting interviewed, and so they kind of
And they
kept
do the barks and stuff, man. I saw they
yeah,
got Caruso to do it. That was hilarious.
yeah. So they went up to Josh Giddey, who's the former Thunder, and so they were like, hey, let's go get him, and it was kind of cool, but at the same time, it's kind of weird because he was like there, but also not like there. Like it was
Yeah,
a weird dynamic, especially with all the off the
outside
court
stuff. Yeah.
crap that was going on. And so like I don't know. I thought it was a little weird. But now we're 3-0, looking good. Jet is looking a lot better. He still needs to
Mm-hmm.
put on a lot more muscle, but that's why we got that gosh, I forgot his name, but the center, he's bigger.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so like he's gonna be able to lock down that center position for us while Jet can go play the four and play power forward or whatnot. So I think we really have had the best offseason we could have, and we still have a lot of draft talent. So if we want to keep pushing for this, like to be it, we can do it, man. Shea's looking like he's an MVP candidate. We're looking like we're still supposed to do damage in the West, and so it's looking really good for them. And who knew you could do that with such a young team?
Who knew?
So,
Who knew, man? Yeah, you guys are looking awesome, and like I've been saying, you guys have done this rebuild, I think, in the right way, and
yep,
good for you
100%.
guys, man. Speaking of another young team, on the other side of the 0-3, who just dropped their third game to the Dallas Mavericks. I think it was 110-102. That would be the Utah Jazz. We are showing our youth, our inexperience, and hey, maybe we're tanking the right way finally.
Yeah.
We are now officially at the bottom of the conference and have the worst point differential with minus 17 in the entire league.
Wow.
So let's go, dude. My teams are, yes, so
Cooking
good. I'm
something
so
up.
excited.
I'm so excited.
Cooper Flag, man. Cooper Flag. We better get him. We better get the lottery, man. Please, please, please. Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be, I think, I genuinely do, man. And I hate to say it, like, because it's never fun. And it's tough to go through as a locker room and everything. I think that's
Yeah,
the
100%.
concern Sean brought up. But we've done this thing where we try to play good, we try to start out the season good, and then aren't good enough to compete, and then we don't get a good enough pick 12th, 10th, I think the last 2 years. So let's get a top 5 pick, maybe a number 1, because I think Cooper Flag is going to be something special. One more thing to note: the Lakers eyeing Walker Kessler for a trade, so
Nice.
that'll be interesting for them. I think that he would definitely be a good backup role. I think he's starting to play a little bit better this season. Kind of had that sophomore slump, but yeah, we could probably see a lot of Utah Jazz trades
What
early
did they
on.
even? What would you guys get from that? Because maybe they include Mr. Clarkson in that. I could see that, but
I
at the
think
same time, what did the Lakers offer to give you guys? Like
that's
that's the
tough. I mean,
hard part.
obviously he was a first round pick. I don't know if you. I mean, maybe you trade a first round pick now if you're thinking that the Lakers will be better in the sense that
I just don't
like
see
they
them
won't it won't be that
trading
high
a
of a
first round.
pick.
Yeah, I just
But
don't
yeah,
see them
first round's
giving away a
hard.
first round.
Maybe some players in a second or something like that. Some older veterans that
Give up
the
Bronny.
Lakers don't quite need, or Bronny, or Braun, AD
There's
maybe.
that. There's
Who
that.
I do think we forgot to mention AD. Talking about Braun, he has said that AD is our number one option.
Number one guy.
We are riding behind him, and when you have Braun as your number 2 guy, which it's hard to say because he is Braun and he's so dominant and ball dominant, that I think he'll be
Yeah.
good, but that's awesome. It definitely doesn't hurt when he's your number 1 guy. So
Yep.
very, very good for the Lakers there. And yeah, Jazz, let's tank, man. I think we need to do it. I know it sucks, but Chet was the number 2 pick and look what he's doing, so I love it if we can do it.
Yeah.
Let's move along with some other news. DeJounte Murray, unfortunately, point guard for the New Orleans Pelicans, this year. He breaks his hand in the season opener.
First
Will
game,
be out
yeah.
4 to 6 weeks for him. So huge blow for the Pelicans too. I was excited really to see one because I think he just got traded this last year, and
He did.
I think that would be that's going to be a dynamic duo if both of them can stay healthy with him and Zion Williamson. So it'll be interesting to see how the Pelicans stay afloat there.
Yeah.
Oh, one more note for the Jazz. Just saw this. Taylor Hendricks suffers a leg fracture, apparently a gruesome injury to his right ankle.
Oof.
So, not sounding good there. Hopefully, it's not as bad and he can get a better recovery. But yeah, got to mention that as well. Let's move along to some 76ers news. We love these guys and talk about more guys that can't stay on the court. I hope you are excited to hear this, Fies. Paul George is progressing well, and he might be back soon, but he still missed the first two road games for the 76ers. They did get their first win in overtime against the Pacers this past Sunday, but then Joel Embiid gets a tech today. Actually, they went back and looked at it, but he was, I guess, waving a towel on the bench, and it's like letter of the law, clearly against the rules for the players. So he now has more technicals on the season than minutes played.
Oh man, I love talking about these guys, and they're still investigating on Joel Embiid because he's a big Mr. I don't play back to back games kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
and so 76ers continue to struggle and continue to pour money down at problems and they don't get resolved. I like Joel Embiid, even though he did the whole U.S., France, and Cameroon crap, but like I like him as a player. But right now, it's just he's a little sus right now. And Paul George. And
Not
funny
much.
thing is I actually have both of these guys on my fantasy basketball.
Oh, do
So
you?
bada boom, bada beam.
The injuries just keep coming for you, even in a different sport, huh?
They continue to roll in for me. So I
Oh
hope to see when
man.
they end up making their season debut and actually if they can do some damage together because I think they could, especially with Joel Embiid being so dominant off the ball and he can pick and pop, unlike some other centers. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they actually end up working that duo really well, especially Monty and stuff like that playing on that team. So
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move along. Let's talk about Dwayne Wade, who gets a new statue that I think wins the award now for the worst looking statue of a professional athlete. It don't even look like him, dude. Like not at all. There's no facial
yep,
structure, build, whatever you want to say that looks anything like him. He came out and he defended it actually.
he
He
did.
goes, "If I wanted it to look like me, then I would just stand outside of the arena." I'm like, okay. I don't know. It probably sucks. You got to defend it. It's a statue for you. It's a great honor, but boy, did they just
I missed that one.
miss that one.
Somebody might as well just push it down or something and just ruin it so they can restart it. But he also did say that, you know what? It is a beautiful statue. If I have to say, I know I'm being a little biased, but it's probably one of the best looking statues. And I'm like,
Okay, but I appreciate your optimism about your statue, but I feel bad
yes.
for you. I'm genuinely sorry that,
Yeah.
that it looks so bad.
Yes.
All right, well, let's finish it out with a couple plays of the week. I like to try and, look around the league, check what I've seen, and see what I would like to highlight. And one of them was Brandon Miller for the Hornets. I believe he was their first round pick. I'd say top 5, definitely a top 10 pick for him last year.
Yeah.
I think he's from Alabama. He has crazy hops, gets a crazy poster slam. Already seeing those crazy dunks early on. Giannis gets another one. He was, oh man, talk about, it wasn't like Jordan from the free throw line, but he's just so damn long. He took off from near the free throw line, dunked it on Vucevic. Man's just keeps living under the rim, but not in the good way for
No.
Vucevic. So
Yep.
exciting to see for them. Bucks to note struggling to start the season 1-3. So interesting to see if they'll turn it around. Still
Wait,
got
who's still their head coach?
Doc Rivers.
It's probably
And Darvin
somebody's
Ham is
wasting
the
that whole team away,
assistant
bro. a
coach
hundred
too.
percent. Like, just
Please get him
And
out of
Damian
there.
Lillard there too, man. Him and freaking Giannis should be torching the league right now,
And they
dude.
have Middleton. They
Mm-hmm.
actually have a really good team. But it's
Just
just
terrible
I think
coach.
it's just their Doc. I'm sorry, but I think it's just Doc Rivers. I don't think he's a good coach, and proving
I
that they
don't think
play in
so
his system
either.
is very difficult. So
I honestly, thought he did okay in media and stuff, and I think he should have just stayed there when this. We've already talked about this in nauseum
yeah,
that when they weren't they number one in the league when they fired their coach.
they fired. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so interesting. You wonder what happened there, but well, that was the NBA. Let's shout out happy Sports Equinox Day to everybody. And for those who don't know, that is when all major sports that for America, NFL, NBA, hockey, and baseball all play on the same day. So to shout out Wesley's team before we get out of here, they are up right now. We're recording this during Monday Night Football. They are up 26-18. Looks like the Giants got the ball back, a chance to drive and possibly tie that game up.
Mm,
And then the Dodgers are currently up 4-0
yeah.
in game 3 after they've already started out with a 2-0 series lead. So I don't know, man. Your Yankees might have to have a little 2004 Red Sox run in them and see if they can come back from down 3-0.
Or,
Um, One thing to note, Shohei Otani did go for a steal in game 2 and actually injured his elbow. I think left the game, but he was in the game tonight. So interesting to see what will happen there. Dodgers, they just got such a talented freaking team, man,
they
top to
do.
bottom.
That's what happens when you got money and you can buy anybody you want.
It really does. And I hear so many baseball fans that, are fans of teams that their owners literally just don't spend money. Like they just don't care. And
Yeah,
it's crazy to see that if you're willing to spend money, man, you can win in the MLB. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see if bottom of the 8th, so Yankees are up right now. Let's see if they can pull something out of their ass and make something happen. But yeah, we'll have to see, and we'll have to inform you guys on the Monday Night Football results next week with the Steelers as they go into their bye week. And yeah, thank you guys for joining us. That's another episode of your favorite couch potatoes and another segment of your NBA roundup, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. It's been a lot of fun with you, Feisty, and
Yes,
thank you for
sir.
joining us. Make sure to check out the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, dropping every Thursday to get you ready for your football week. And then check out the clips on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok Shorts, and keep a really close eye on those. Might have a little bit of a NBA exciting news coming here in the next few weeks, so I can't wait for that. Can't wait to share it with you guys. And yeah, like I said, thanks for joining us. So until next time, we'll catch you on the couch. See ya.